Well, it's the beginning of another week right here on the George Show on 710 KNUS, 14 August, folks. That tells you that tomorrow is the Ides of August. We're in the middle of August. My kids now have been in school. This will be the first full week back. Big weekend for us. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. I want to get to the weather today. Only a high of 79. I've gone sweats. I don't normally do sweats until it's super cold out, but it's a function, one, of a laundry issue on my part. And two, it just felt a little chillier out there when I stepped outside this morning. Partly cloudy, 79 degrees, but then it bolts up 13 degrees tomorrow to 92 degrees, and we stay in the 90s throughout. I only see at this point one pictogram with lightning coming out of it, and that's Friday with some afternoon storms. In terms of what's on the agenda for this week, listen, I'll be honest with you. It seems like most of the focus of the mainstream media is on Georgia in terms of a potential indictment out there from District Attorney Fani Willis on the election stuff from a couple of years ago. We'll, of course, be following that. But I'm so reluctant to jump right back into the politics stuff. I would much rather talk about what was a fantabulous weekend. Billy, anything except, did you have like 18 different radio gigs going on?
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of radio over the weekend. It was a good but
all paid.
Busy.
All paid.
Oh yeah, all paid. But yeah, the interesting thing was adjust myself here. Okay. Interesting thing was I went back and did some adult contemporary this weekend for the first time in a couple of.
Give me a couple of the artists that would comprise adult contemporary.
See, here's the thing: it's adult contemporary and also light adult contemporary, because I do two shows at the same time when you're doing those formats.
What is lighter than adult contemporary?
It's basically, here's the thing is, adult contemporary is everything that was popular on the radio 9 months ago. That's adult contemporary.
Really?
Yeah. And then a light adult contemporary is everything that was popular on the radio 5 years ago. That's light adult contemporary.
What's 10 years ago?
I don't know, but I'm afraid to do that one. Yeah, I'm afraid to do that one. The issue being is that when it's adult contemporary, it has to be palatable for everybody. And after it has spread around the music universe for about 9 months, you then have the ability to bring it on to adult contemporary. There are very few artists that you bring directly on to adult contemporary, Adele being one of them, but you consider her.
Of course.
Yeah, but other than that, you have to wait and see how it does. Then light adult contemporary is, it's anything that's 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Then it's okay, because now we've listened to it enough times. Can't possibly offend us in any way, shape, or form. And so now that's what we do. Adult contemporary is a lot of Adele. You do some of the older Taylor Swift. None of the new stuff. No, nothing off the new album. No, that's too scary. Okay, way too scary. You do Ed Sheeran, but not new Ed, old Ed. Got to be old Ed Sheeran. Old Justin Bieber. Lots of Maroon 5. Lots and lots of Maroon 5. So that's kind of.
Is there new Maroon 5?
Not recently.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Maybe Maroon 5 is now all adult contemporary.
Yeah, a lot of it is. There isn't a lot of new stuff, but yeah, that's kind of what you did a lot of. So, but it's interesting because it's a different format, it's a different broadcasting technique, and it's a different set of stories and things that I tell. And so it's just a different personality, and how I present is different. So that was kind of it was nice to get back into that. Into that world. Hadn't done that in a while. And you do a lot of lifestyle topics. You do a lot of, isn't it weird? And then you do life hacks. You do little things like one of my favorite ones for adult contemporary is, hey, you just do, just throwaway things. They're really quick breaks and things like, okay, I go, you need to warm a beverage in the middle of the day and it's sitting there room temperature, wrap it in a cold paper towel, set it in the freezer. Inside of 10 minutes, it'll be cold.
What?
That's it. Yeah. Yes, if you have a room temperature beverage,
these are the life hack.
Yeah, you wrap it in a wet paper towel and then you put it into the freezer. Inside of 10 minutes, it'll be cold because of how science works.
Science, huh?
Yeah.
We need to we'll add this to the coming podcast, Billy's science short or something like that.
So I do a lot of those things. I do a lot of, things like, I will do things like, how come my teenagers can't ever bring their dishes out of their room back into the kitchen?
Well, if you have a life hack for that, that'd be great.
I do not. For me, it's cattle prod, but that still isn't working out so well. But yeah, so you do things like that. It was kind of neat to do, but I did a lot of rock.
How many hours do you think you put in this weekend?
Let's see. Let me think. How many count the shifts? 5, 10. I probably did 25 hours of radio.
Did you get to do it from home, surrounded by the snakes?
Yeah. And that's a nice thing is it's from home. But yesterday morning, I'm live at 4 a.m. So I'm
I'm
up at 3.
Dude, come on, man.
I'm up
come
at
on a
this
Sunday.
Many. Yeah, I'm up at this
Hang
many.
Hang me.
I can't get up too close to being on the air because you got to warm the voice up. It's
Hold on. Do you do that peas and carrots?
No.
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
No, more it's just the idea of I just sit there and just kind of talk to myself. I just sit there and you just got to warm the vocal cords up a little bit.
That's what you call it, warming up the vocal cords.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like you're doing that every time you think no one's standing around you here in the studio. You're warming up your vocal cords.
Yeah. I talk to myself a lot, so my kids have learned that one. So it was a lot of that. Then went over, saw my mom Saturday afternoon, and that was good. Helped her do some stuff around the house. Still sorting out some stuff with my father. We're looking at, we need to get rid of his acoustic guitar, which is kind of tough.
Oh yeah.
But it is in like mint condition, but it's a 1962 Goya. So nothing too phenomenal, but
I knew his paintings, but nothing else.
It's about things worth about probably $450, $500, so not bad. But
not willing to spend that on.
Yeah, well,
on something that doesn't shed or bolt.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's that's got liquidated, help my mom based on finances and things. One thing that what my dad did do is, we were going through his cameras, so we're kind of separating out some stuff there, stuff that's going to get sold, stuff that we're going to keep, because he was a huge camera aficionado. So, kind of dividing up, who wants what, and then going through his watches, which are. That's something. That's something that we're gonna have to. We have to go get an appraisal on several of them.
And then a knife fight amongst the kids over.
No, we kind of. My brother and I are kind of copacetic on some of them. There's gonna be one that will be an issue, and we'll have to see about that one.
Has that issue led to you making statements like, Dad always loved me more. He wants me to have this watch.
No, but there is. I may leverage something because there is some audio equipment that our father has that is really valuable, and he wants all of the audio equipment. It makes no sense to part it out, but altogether, it's worth a pretty penny. So I may leverage some of that.
Maybe a trade. Does he listen to the show? Have you just revealed your negotiating tactic?
No, not at all, which is good.
But mom does.
Yeah,
and mom's going to end up.
So she'll know. Yeah, she'll tell him.
Son,
hey, guess
what
he's going to do?
We've got it all figured out.
Yeah, I just thought about that. I'm like, oh yeah, because there's one of those, some of those watches, and they mean a lot to me. In fact, there's one that we were looking at yesterday that he wore all the time. And I really wanted to walk away with that one yesterday. I'm like, I should just put this on and say, Mom, I'm taking this one.
I just wonder, do we have anything like that anymore, Billy? Like your watch, do you see your kids wanting your watch?
No, not at all.
They're just not the same, right? Like unless you own something that's a real timepiece.
Yeah.
I just like, I have a Garmin and I had an Apple Watch before that. And I mean, I don't see the kids.
No, not at all.
Other than, hey, this is something we can put in a museum. I can't see them ever saying, this is highly coveted. Dad wore that watch all the time. I don't see it.
Oh, and then he has a couple pocket watches too. And one of which is phenomenal. I mean, it's a pocket watch. It's it's almost 150 years old. And it is huge. It is an enormous watch.
Hold on. What you held up there looked a lot like Flavor Flav.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
huge.
that.
It is an enormous pocket watch. And it was used by miners and train engineers back in the day.
Just kids and train engineers.
So
would he ever pop out, flip it open, and say, I'm late for a very important date?
No, he didn't, but he did wind them, and I remember as a kid buying him the display cases that they
that's neat.
So that was one of the things that I did
pretty
as a
cool.
kid.
Are you going to start wearing some kind of a vest with a pocket watch? Because
no, but if I do get his watch they wore all the time, I will be wearing that immediately because I'm not a watch person. I will. I absolutely will. It felt weird. I wore it a little bit around the house yesterday, and then I took it off, and I'm driving home like, I liked it. I liked that. And it was a nice connection to Dad because it was one that he wore all the time. So
and instantly you told your brother, I can't find that one.
Yeah, I can't find that at all.
What happened to it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's one particular watch that is super valuable that they're like, no, we got to figure out what to do with that one. I mean, ridiculously
Does
valuable.
it rhyme with Molex?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Well, then,
yes,
as long as it doesn't have two X's at the end, it's probably legit.
Yeah, it is. It's a totally legit one. So we got to figure out that one. But one of them is he has one of the Omega Moon watches, and that
sounds super cool.
Yeah, it's one of the ones they did for the NASA. And now, granted, this watch did not go to the moon, but it's part of that special line.
Yeah,
and they only did so many of those.
Oh, that's great.
So that's one that's really cool.
How much?
Yeah. Well, that's thousands of dollars.
Jeez.
Thousands of dollars.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
Someone texted in here, of course, you got to pay for that Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly. Got to pay for that one way or another.
Yeah.
That one. And then the big thing over the weekend was the English Premier League is back. Yes.
Oh, is that it?
Yes. Finally. Oh, my nipples are hurting.
Is that like the season premiere of a Game of Thrones series or something like that?
It's now the world is right again. Now we have professional soccer that is back and being played, and it was wonderful.
Is Wrexham part of that?
They are in the lower divisions, and unfortunately, they lost, and that was not good. They're struggling. They do not. They were over talented for the lower league,
but
under talented.
They
seem to be under talented. And that's going to be a problem.
They need Messi.
Yeah. Oh, we watched. Oh gosh, I watched 4 games over the course of this weekend, which was wonderful. I watched Chelsea and Liverpool punch each other in the mouth and end up in a tie, and that was great. Saw my brother's team play Brighton, and they end up in a tie, which is wonderful. My son's team plays today. And then I also get to watch my Newcastle Magpies.
Hold on, they're playing a game on a Monday? Is it Monday night out there?
Yeah, it's Monday night. Oh, it'll be Monday night, 7 p.m. is what the game will be English time.
Like Monday Night Football, but the other football.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, huge deal, and it's the biggest game of the week. It's the wrap up. It's like the Monday Night Football. It's the wrap up of the first weekend. But my Newcastle Magpies had the premier, like focus game on the Saturday, and we romped over Aston Villa. It was ridiculous.
Those bastards at Aston Villa had it coming, whoever they are.
Well, the thing about Aston Villa is they're going to play in roughly the pool where we are. We're going to be fighting for position league with them. And we had been competing with a number of signings over the summer, one of them being a striker by the last name of Diaby. He chose Villa over us. So you're like, but he's really good. So game starts out. Our new guy, Sandro Tonali, who I think I'm already in love with. I might have to get his jersey. I mean, seriously, I have a man crush on him. He does he does what I want a player to do. He's a guy who comes out of Milan. Yeah, he comes out of Milan. He comes out of AC Milan. And he is, if more players in international soccer would play like he did, more Americans would watch. He is a physical guy.
So he punches people.
Oh, does he ever? Yeah, he does. He is so physical, and he's fantastic. So I already have a man crush. He scored first. He was our big signing. And then Diaby scored for Aston Villa. So it was 1-1. And then we unleashed the hounds, and it was fantastic. It was,
Release the hounds.
Yeah. Alexander Isak got 2. Callum Wilson got 1.
These are all Harvey names that somebody out there listening at 710 is like, I know soccer. And they're like, dang, bring it, Billy, bring it. And I think the rest of us are like, are you just making up names?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Isak Johnson-ish.
Isak's great. And he's a Swedish kid, big, tall Swedish kid. And phenomenal goal.
You could really make up any name you want, and you should do that in the future and just see if people go, oh, I love that guy. Well, he's so good.
There was a guy from Chelsea that came on yesterday, and I wish I have to see if I can find his name, that had a series of consonants in an order that I had never seen before. I'm like, this is
what?
It's an African
Slavic?
last name.
Oh,
no, it's African last name. It's like, wait, what? And it starts with a U. And it has all these consonants.
How do you pronounce it?
I don't know.
It's pronounced Smith.
I have no idea. I'll see if I can find it. I'll see if I can find the lineups. But it was absolutely ridiculous. But that was good because I had to balance out doing the radio and then being able to watch the soccer. I had to make sure that I did just enough of my radio show.
Yeah, see, you've answered the question. Texters are already questioning your credibility. Like, how could he watch all that soccer and do the radio?
Because I woke up at I was on the air at 6 a.m. on Saturday. And wrapped that up by 10:30 Newcastle was on. Finished up Newcastle, did another hour of radio, then went to see my mom, got up at 4.
What a busy weekend.
Yeah. And then again, but on Friday, I can pre-tape one of my shows. So I pre-taped a 5-hour show on Friday. So Friday afternoon, I did one of the shows. So, but that counts. It's a weekend show. So it counts as, And then I did 2 shows back to back. Sunday morning, did some stuff around the house, watched the tail end of the Tottenham game that I had taped, just the second half, and it was mostly boring, and then was there in time for the Chelsea-Liverpool game. Missed the first 20 minutes of that one, doing one of the adult contemporary shows, watched the rest of that one, and then went back after the game, and then did the rest of the AC show.
I don't know.
I know. It's, I got to see if I can find that guy's name, but
Phil McCracken.
Yeah, how did you do? What did you do this weekend?
But big weekend. First off, Saturday was T's birthday. Trey turned 19.
Really? Oh, congratulations.
And I am just all mushy on the inside when it comes to the kids and stuff. So, but the great news for us was he's moving up to CSU tomorrow. And so mom's taking him up there, and she's going to spend a night or 2 up there making sure that orientation and everything's squared away and help deck out his room and all that stuff. But we went up ahead of time and got to spend all day in Fort Collins. Trey wanted to get into the room, check it out, like actually get the keys. And then we were going to measure some things, see if this was good. I bought a mini fridge for him.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to get more lay of the land. It was a great time to go up because it was before the throngs.
Did you do the microwave?
We did. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
We first off, brilliant location. He's not an engineer, but he's in the engineering dorm, which is so close to the Commons, a block away from the stadium. And, this is a kid that never loved Rock Canyon extracurriculars and he told me, he's like, I just never felt like the guys at Rock Canyon were all that welcoming and nice. And that was a big deal for him. In fact, it was as much about accessibility in picking CSU as it was about, he just thought they were so nice. And I kind of saw a different side of him as we would encounter some people like behind the desk and stuff like that. He seemed, I don't know, a little more forward or confident.
Nice.
And it was nice. So he's got this room on the first floor for the accessibility stuff. And he was bummed because he wanted a roommate, but they thought he didn't want a roommate because he has the accessibility room. And
he may be the only college freshman in the entire universe that is
I know
unhappy if they don't have
I
a
know
roommate.
But both his mom and I
Yes.
said,
yeah,
dude, I would have killed in a room that is bigger than the one I shared with my college roommate my freshman year in the engineering dorms up at CU. His name was Charles Wilson Brown IV. He's also known as Charlie Brown. So of course we could never order pizza to the room under his name because they thought it was a big gag. But we had a room smaller than the one my son has.
Wow.
And the shared bathroom right down the hallway with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
He's got his own bathroom for the accessibility.
So nice.
But he's bummed. And so we told the housing guy, hey, he'd really like a roommate. I know that sounds crazy. He's like, I thought he wouldn't want a room. I'm like, no, he wants the experience. So once we parked and we got a great handicap space up there.
Their handicap spaces, their accessibility is fantastic.
Yeah, as long as they're open, right? Because there are a lot of people with the placards, So, but it was a great space. He didn't want to drive again. So he said, hey, maybe we should get a microwave, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure there's some good ones. There's a Target about 1.1 miles from here, all the way across campus. And he's like, I don't want to drive. Let's walk it. And the weather was perfect. And the campus was just so lightly attended.
Yeah. And it's the one that has the underground parking.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
In fact, it's the one where he comments, he's like, why do you think there's a 10,000 pound limit on something or other? And I'm like, because there's something below that they don't want you to fall through and crush,
because they got underground parking.
Yeah, people. And so he's like, let's just walk it. So we walked back and forth across the campus doing different things, checking things out. We always told ourselves we'd take a different route. We ended up going to a place called the Pickle Barrel for
I know that's
a dinner. And it was great. It was a great way to spend his birthday.
When you're at Target, tell him across the street, I guess it'd be west of Target. It's a really quirky grocery store.
Oh, yeah. The Lucky something.
Yep, exactly. It's not a chain. And it's weird. They've got some cool stuff. They've got some unusual stuff. It is worth a browse, and you can find some, kind of unusual, fun stuff in there. It's not. I don't think I would go and do my regular grocery shopping there.
Yeah.
But I absolutely would supplement because they've got some really neat stuff. It's been a surprise.
They also had an unusual concentration of tattoo parlors in the area. Like he's like, I've never seen this many. And then we did
bars.
Bars and tattoo parlors. Interesting connection. And then, we ran into some folks, or we'd see them on the street and stuff. There were so many women with the right nostril piercing, like a little loop or something. So I mentioned that to him, and he's like, was that a problem for you, Dad? I'm like, no, it's just an observation. I'm like, where we are in Douglas County, you just don't see it that much. Up here, it's like, find someone who doesn't have one. I'm like, it's just different. It's a college town.
What I always point out to my kids is I'm like, all these girls did that so that they are different. And now they all look the same.
They all look the same.
Yeah,
That's
they all
true.
look the same. Also, have them check out, if you wanted to, there's a vintage clothes store.
Really?
In that Main Street area that's a couple blocks away from the Target. That's a really nice shop. It's a really cool thing. You can find some really neat things.
I hadn't been up to Fort Collins in a long time. And it was neat. And they have that oval, there with the great green field with the trees that line the thing. And we're walking down for the last time after we had dinner. We're going back to the apartment or the room. And I stopped for a moment and go, hang on. Wait a minute. I said, you're about to move up here forever.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I said, buddy,
I've
never been away from you that long, unless I was in Iraq. I was like that.
Oh yeah.
Like this is.
I get it right here too. I get it too because Spencer's going back, and it's that time in which they're going and they're starting to spread their wings, and you want them to. And see, I'm gonna lose myself too. That it's like what Michael J. Fox said. He said you spend the time raising your kids to go and be their own adults.
Yeah.
and then they have the nerve to
Yeah,
take you
those
up on
bastards.
it. Yeah, those jerks. Go ahead and do it. Yeah, which is just that's tough.
So
I did. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so we ended up wrapping up the evening late. We just were trying to kill a bunch of time waiting to go get Jeff because he flew back from South Korea.
How was that?
It was great.
Did
it
he
was
have a
great.
piercing that he didn't tell you about?
No.
I was just curious.
I do think he came back taller, which is weird because now there's no question he's at least as tall as I am, on his way to being taller. But it was awesome because we met him at the top of that thing at DI. You know, the escalators come up. Yeah. We met him and a bunch of the other scouts, and he comes right over to Trey and gives him a big hug, and then just starts talking. And I'm like, hey. How about Dad? How about Dad's missed the hell out of you, buddy?
Yeah, I called you.
Yeah, like come on, man. And he's like, it's almost like this reluctant. Yeah, of course. And we come in and throw a hug in, and
he gives you a side hug. Just gives you a shoulder.
But he was just so much more interested in hanging out with his brother. And
that's wonderful.
It was good. And then
although you did miss an opportunity.
What's that? What happened?
You and Trey could have shown up with a sign that says something like, congratulations on your parole, or,
yeah,
we're
that's
so
right.
glad
free at last.
Exactly. There could have been something there. You could have, you had a chance to embarrass him.
We screwed that up.
It's okay.
But it was a great day to spend with Trey, and
that's nice.
It's just tough. I mean,
is it ever? I went through it last year. I get it. I know exactly where you are.
I want it to be as great as he wants it to be.
Yeah. Yep. And you're worried you want everyone to treat him as well as you want to. And you're worried that because, and this is weird. As fathers, we want to fix things. We want to protect and we want to fix.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that if something goes wrong for our sons or our daughters, we are there to help and to fix it. That's just how us guys are wired.
Well, and for me, the follow-on is, and I want to revenge. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something to my kid, I will punch a punk.
Exactly. I will fight a small child.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Not at all. And that's the problem is it's that distance where you can't be there to be that backstop for them. And that is hard. That is a really, really difficult thing emotionally. I know exactly where you're at. It's tough. And I got to go through it later this week.
Oh, buddy.
And back up.
And you've already gone through it once.
This first year. These next 2 months are going to be a little tough. They're going to be touch and go. There's going to be moments in which you'll stop and you'll look at the house and go, and there are portions of it that'll feel empty. And what I talk about is when Spencer comes back, I talk about how there's now balance in the force. That the force is unbalanced in the house when he is not there. So it's tough. It's going to be tough.
I want to go up there on Tuesday and help him move in, but I just, because of this gig and stuff, there's just no way to make it work, for a couple days. And
go see him. Go see him Friday or Saturday, and go out to.
Well, I thought about doing that. I thought about doing that,
it'll be enough days.
I even brought it up to him. I said, "Hey, what if we came up?" And he's like, "Dad, they're planning a whole bunch of first week orientation things. I think I probably just need to stay available to do those." And I'm like, you don't want us to come up.
And if it's not the Saturday or the Sunday, because you got about a week. What they do is they bring them up a week before classes ever starts. It's a whole bunch of get to know you stuff. They've got some really good activities.
Hey, by the way, CSU, everyone we've met so far, just so damn nice. And Trey brought this up. They're very focused on community. It's one of the things I love about CSU. And he's like, CU, I just didn't get that vibe. He's like, it's got a reputation as a party school and all this stuff. And he said, and I get it. He goes, that's just not me.
Yeah. The one thing that I've been happy with is it's been hard sometimes navigating for some things inside the system, but everybody is trying to get you to the position that you want to be. You're like, hey, this isn't good. I need this. I remember being up there with Spencer and trying to find one of those carts. And I'm like, I need one of those carts to get the stuff inside. And they're like, well, these two are out, etc. And one of the people behind the desk goes, wait, I think they have one in that building over there. I'm like, that's a long, and person goes over to that building, brings the cart from that building back over here. And I went,
that sounds exactly like them.
I went, wait. That shocked me. That absolutely.
Super
and there have
nice,
been a number of times in which they've done things like that for us. So yeah. Oh, also, I found the soccer player for you. The gentleman on Chelsea that stepped onto the field. His last name is spelled this way: capital UGOCHUKWU. I can't even guess. Exactly. I can't even guess at what that is. But I looked
that's
at that
an easy one.
It's
throw something hard at me with no vowels.
that's a 1,000-point word in Scrabble. So yeah.
So then yesterday, the last movie the boys and I all got to see together, couldn't lure anybody else to go, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, how was that? I'm curious.
Liked it. enjoyed it.
good.
Yeah, the kids really liked it.
I've always been. This is always the thing because I think about these things a little too much. There are times at night in which I lay awake, and I keep thinking that the turtles they live in a sewer.
Yeah,
and
true.
Nobody ever complains about the smell. I
They
just
don't.
think that odd. I mean, even
they
then,
could have good hygiene down there.
well,
I don't know.
I don't know. And even then, the turtles may not have the best nostrils. They may not be them worried about it. But at least when they show up and they start fighting the Foot and everybody else in Splinter, there should have been some. God, you guys stink. I mean, there should be something there.
And they should be spelled Turdles. You know what I mean? To just be consistent with the environment. But before that, because I've made this ridiculous decision to run that damn marathon at the end of October, I ran 10 miles yesterday morning.
Oh, thoughts and prayers.
Oh, buddy. I mean, and again, I told myself, don't care about the pace. Don't care about the pace. Just get it done.
Yeah. So you walked it?
There were times where and this was a trail run. It was hills, and it was kind of this one that starts over by Ruder Hess and works its way over to the bluffs and all that. And there were times where
your decision making even more now.
I wasn't even sure I was moving forward at points. I'm like, is the earth rotating under me faster than I'm moving?
Yeah, like in the cartoons. Yeah.
And it was just, and I would convince myself that it seems like it's all uphill going. I imagine most of it will be downhill. And somehow the earth reversed its topography, and now it was uphill going back. And I just think 10 miles, okay, that's 40% of a marathon. What in the hell am I doing?
Again, I question decision making,
buddy. I can't quit now. I mean, it's one of those things.
Can.
And I've told the kids this.
I quit. Try it. Say it with me.
You sign up for something, you get through the end. I don't care if you utterly fail, but you'll get. Now I'm like, I have to do this. I'll be one of those guys that the Ocho ESPN 8 covers coming across at midnight. It'll be dark, and I'll be crawling across. It'll be like Kona, except just the marathon.
You'll be the Somalia runner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. I'm thinking more of like, what was her name? Rosie, whatever, that won the Boston Marathon. Do you remember that? She had a taxi cab or something, dump her.
Yep.
I'll make that mistake, and I'll be running across. People will be going crazy, and I'll be like, "What?
Oh, that's right.
That's
waving to people.
Let me tell you about how I trained. It was really good.
Yeah, it was really good.
So I am afflicted by great pains in my nether regions, and then of course today, as I got up to come to this show at before the crack of dawn, well before the crack of dawn. I was firing up some coffee in the kitchen, and my watch did the little vibration thing, and I looked down for again, you don't have to worry about this with your dad's classic watches. It's screaming at you saying your recovery time was delayed due to poor sleep. I'm like, screw you. Screw you, watch.
Which again is one of the advantages to the watch. That's why I like these watches even more.
Oh, the other watches never say anything to you.
Not at all. They love you no matter what you're doing.
At some point, maybe Mickey covers his groin. Yeah, but that's the only message you could ever get from that.
That and he covers his eyes saying you're making bad decisions.
That's right. Otherwise, but this stupid watch will continue to yell. I'm waiting for it to say, hey, fat guy, you don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. Put down the donuts.
And then my brother was in town for his 50th birthday.
That's right. It was the 50th. How was that?
It was great. We went out. It was Thursday night or Friday night. It was without Jeff because we got to FaceTime Jeff on from Korea, but it was good. We kind of dual celebrated T and Eric, and Eric had a bunch of his old buddies there and stuff. Guys that I remember being kids that he'd bring around the house, and
Isn't
they're
that
all
weird.
It's so weird, so weird. And but he and the family came out. It was great to hang out with them, and he's headed back today. He and Nicole and the family are going to drive back, and I don't know. Cool. I just wish they still lived here. You know,
I get the same thing. I talked to my brother for about a half an hour on the phone yesterday, and it's that I wish he was here. You know, he's doing great things and he's having fun and they're having a great time. But
I will tell you, it's housing that drove them out of here. Yeah, it's not a lack of love of Colorado. They have a house that they could afford. I'm guessing it's 400. I'm making that up, 400 something, and it has 10 acres and a nice house here. Like we have a great aunt, wonderful woman. Her husband was my great uncle, one of the original members of the 101st Airborne. And anyway, now all passed, and the house is on the market, and they're like, we'd love to live there. We can't. This house was built in 1955. Wow. We can't afford to live there. The price on it on Zillow is, 50% more than the house they could afford. They're like, we want to come back to Colorado. We can't afford to live here.
Yeah, that is a big problem. And that is, I think about that with my kids when they're launching their lives, that chances are that if they want to leave the nest relatively soon, they are not going to be able to stay here. And that hurts. I feel like the city in and of itself is driving them away.
Oh my gosh.
And my brother and sister-in-law live in Seattle. Yeah. And that housing market like we have here. And they felt the pressure. They're in a new house. They're about a year into it.
Yeah.
They felt the pressure that they had to get into a house at that point because otherwise it's going to get out of sight.
I almost feel like that way now. Like if someone's looking to buy a house, like even though you think it's ridiculous, it's only going to get ridiculouser.
Yep, exactly.
If that's a word.
That's where they were. And they were like, we got to make this move now. They said, yes. Is the market overvalued? Yes. All right, can we make this move now? And they moved from one side of the city to the other side of the city simply because that was where they could afford it. And they got a really nice deal. It is a nice house. But again, like Seattle, the weird thing is here, we build out. We build long ranch houses because Seattle is constrained on geography. They build houses that are narrow, long, and tall. So their house is thin, long, but has 3 stories.
Oh, yeah.
But it's thin.
Because that's how they have to do it. Those closer in Southern California, like Manhattan Beach and others, you see that kind of those row house type things like that. You see those all over.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Again, this is going to sound very bougie. I don't mean it to be. I don't like seeing more and more of those congested apartment things pop up all over now. And I get why they exist, and in no way am I sliding, but I guess I would like instead a whole bunch of single family homes. You know what I mean? Like it's a more permanent community. It has a different feel to it.
I would too. I would love to see more single family homes. The only thing that pulls me towards the idea that, okay, I will accept the apartments is because if we get more apartment rentals, it should drive down everybody else's prices. Because if we can get more people
the value of our houses, Billy, we don't want the value of our houses to go down except during assessment season.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only time. But I think that would help get people into housing. I think it would really help some of those people, starting out, those, the apartments and the renters. We've talked about it that, gosh, we haven't done this on the air. I don't know if we did talk about this, but my oldest son, Max, is changing jobs.
You mentioned it.
And he's taking a job. But the issue is if he wasn't with us, if he wasn't living with us, he could not afford to live on his own in this city. There's no way, because after paying his rent and just basis average rent in Denver, after paying that, he would have less than $200 left a week. And that's not buying car insurance, gas, food, electricity, anything. That's not,
you don't really need
spending
food.
I know that's not spending a dime on anything. And he has less than 200 left. And that just doesn't work. How is that part of your budget? I mean, you talk about the idea that, your housing should be somewhere around 30% of your budget at most, and his would be somewhere around 75%.
Is that true?
Yeah,
30%?
Somewhere around that is what they want. I mean, ideally.
Turns out I need to make a lot more if I'm going to drop that fraction down.
Yeah, my wife and I keep talking about that too. And somehow these math people are wrong, damn it. Oh, God, look what we've just done.
Yeah.
Holy crap, we've broken our own record. I just know at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
Good
well,
Lord,
Alexa, wherever you are, congratulations. Listen, let's cut away for a break. When we come back, we are going to get through. I promise we're going to figure out a way to get through it. Maybe not the sponsor, but the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Well, folks, I just stood up to grab the little headphone things here and dumped a little bit of something called a Celsius. It's a delicious kiwi guava right on my nether region. So I'm going to mop that off while the big man takes us through the Thorpe Report.
Now the question is, which picture do we want to watch?
It's all, if you're on the Rumble or the YouTube right now, it's me just patting down that area that you really normally have to pay for someone to pat down.
All right. Cooler weather sticks around for Monday, even as sunny skies move in. We're going to have hotter temperatures the rest of the week. Adams County Sheriff's Office has a person in custody after deputy was shot overnight near West 74th Avenue and Federal Boulevard. Started as a traffic stop. Dude then drove away from the traffic stop. During the process, right around West 74th Avenue and Federal Boulevard, they stopped him again. He shot the deputy. Deputy wearing a bulletproof vest, shot in the midsection, protected by the vest, undergoing a bit of medical treatment just as a precaution. Dude ran away from the area. And then basically around 1 o'clock this morning, taken into custody. 7 people victim of different gunfire incidents, 2 separate shootings in Denver, double shooting in Aurora overnight on Saturday. 2 people in the 11700 block of East Colfax just after midnight. In Denver, shooting reported around 11 p.m. Saturday at the 2500 block of East 45th. Sent 3 people to the hospital, and 4 hours later, Denver police reported a second shooting that wounded 2 people in the 16300 block of East Green Valley Ranch. So also we have 1 person was killed, 2 others were seriously injured after they fell in the Longs Peak area of Rocky Mountain National Park both Friday and Saturday. And we have a local pilot, a man named Vince, and he has a Eckelkamp is his last name. He and his family were vacationing in Maui, and they were trying to get off the island, but the flights were being canceled. Well, Vince happens to be a pilot. So he told them, hey, I can fly the plane. So they actually let him fly the plane, and he got 300 people off the island at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, the plane would not have been allowed to leave otherwise.
Hero.
And as a reminder, Colorado Department of Transportation has started a project to resurface a 13-mile stretch of eastbound I-70. They're going to resurface the lanes on I-70 between the Eisenhower Tunnel and Georgetown on-ramp, according to CDOT. So that's going to create some problems when you go into the mountains and back. That's all I've got. So we'll try to see if we can get to these.
Dude, that went fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Joan. I appreciate it. Yeah, I talked. Yeah. I know. So I did that there too for her.
That was and that was without any coffee.
Yes,
I saw
no
Billy
coffee
just
yet
get
today.
his first cup as we were heading into this.
I got no coffee in me yet.
I feel like I've wet myself. I'm just going to say it out loud. The seat here, of course, is cushiony enough that it's absorbed much of the kiwi guava. I'm not sure how that's going to taste because I'm not putting my mouth there, but I'm going to take a couple minutes off. We're going to come back. We're going to do the You Choose the News, and I'm going to try to find something absorbent. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got to give it over to the man right now to get to that You Choose the News. William.
Yes, good morning, sir. It is that time where we play everybody's favorite radio news game show, You Choose the News. Yes, we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find stupid stories about us humans, giving them really dumb headlines to play this fake radio news game because they keep paying us for it. I literally, we are as confused as you are. But alrighty, sir, here are our choices this morning. Alrighty, headline number 1, understanding advertising is hard. Headline number 2, peafowl population prohibition. Nice alliteration. Headline number 3, AI is trying to kill us. And headline number 4, if only we could have planned for the tragedy. Alrighty, your headlines yet again are understanding advertising is hard, peafowl population prohibition, AI is trying to kill us, and if only we could have planned for the tragedy. Your choice.
Because we're probably not going to get there, advertising is hard.
Advertising is super, super, super hard. We're traveling to Winston-Salem, North Carolina for this one, and a lawsuit against Texas Pete Hot Sauce. Now, just based on the name, you'd assume Texas Pete, obviously a Texas product. You'd be wrong. They are made in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and a gentleman is now suing Texas Pete because he has been confused. He's confuddled. He doesn't understand. They've got a guy on the front. It says Texas Pete. He's wearing a cowboy hat. How could it not be from Texas? You're telling me you could actually create a character that is not from Texas and produce the sauce somewhere else? So he is suing Texas Pete and is asking for money. The lawsuit is allowed to go forward, and I question why. I'm just wondering what's going to happen when the guy realizes that pop rocks don't have any rocks in them. I think there could be a serious problem there.
We need more of that around the studio, by the way.
More rocks?
And pop rocks.
Yes, that's true. But I just looking at this going, you idiot. Do you not understand how advertising works? Do you really? I mean, do you really think that Chuck E. Cheese is a giant live mouse? I mean,
wait,
seriously.
What? Stop.
I know.
Don't.
Well, he's actually a
I'm
rat.
going to tell Santa you said that.
You know, he's technically a rat.
Is that
yeah.
correct?
Originally he was a rat. Yeah, originally the character is a rat. But now he's a mouse.
Normally you yell rat and people flee your Michelin-starred pizza joint.
Alrighty, sir. Second choice this morning. Peafowl population prohibition. AI is trying to kill us, or if only we could have planned for the tragedy.
AI is trying to kill us.
Yeah, I've been warning you about this for years now, and we finally have proof. We are traveling to the lovely island of New Zealand and a supermarket. There's a supermarket there that is experimenting with AI. They think it's going to be a great idea to have artificial intelligence and its geniusness suggest meal plans and specifically menu items and recipes to their shoppers. The problem is, excuse me, it is trying to kill the shoppers. So far, some of the recipes include one that would create a deadly chlorine gas that would fill your entire kitchen, possibly killing you. One of the sandwich recipes contains poison, and don't forget the delicious roast potatoes topped with mosquito repellent.
What?
Yes.
What are you talking about? This is crazy.
Yes, it is. That's why AI is stupid. This whole idea that, oh my God, AI is going to take our jobs. No, AI is stupid, people. Don't
This could be on purpose, though.
It is a bunch of crap. I'm worried about that as well. But literally, they're using AI to suggest menu items, and the menu items contain stuff that'll kill you. I love the one where it's like combine this and this and this, and that's chlorine gas. Just come on. Okay. Well then, final choice this morning, sir. Peafowl population prohibition, or if only we could have planned for the tragedy.
If only we could have planned for the tragedy.
If only we could have planned for the tragedy. That is what Adam and his wife, Carly Taylor, are saying about the Crooked House in England. See, they bought this pub recently. It is old. How old? It originally opened in the 1700s. It is an old school pub. It is a classic. They were so happy to be the new owners. And then tragedy struck. There was a fire only days after they bought the pub that has taken it almost to the ground. There was barely any of the structure left. They had to hire a bulldozer to come in and clean up the rest of the rubble so that they can rebuild. However, while investigating, police started asking some questions and figured out that, the Taylors had contacted this company with the bulldozer, about a week before they owned the pub. And oddly enough, they scheduled the bulldozer in advance to show up the day after the fire.
What?
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it's almost as if the Taylors knew something was going to happen
That's so weird.
on a particular day in order to conveniently schedule the bulldozer.
They can read
to
the
show up
future.
at
They
the
can
right
see the
time.
future, Billy. That's
Oh
not
my
a
God.
crime.
That's it. It's not a crime, but they are actually psychics. That is fantastic.
You've discovered something.
Oh, this is wonderful. We have proved that psychics actually exist on this edition of You Choose the News. Oh, what can't we do? All righty. Well, that is the end of today's You Choose the News. As always, George is our perennial winner, and I am just a giant loser. But today we have Dr. Doofenshmirtz's troubleshooting plan. Solve it with fire. Yes, based on recent news, it is time when you have a problem, solve it with fire. Patent pending. Yes, you have a problem with your lawn, set it on fire. You have too many spiders in your garage, fire. Your neighbor's complaining about your loud music, lots of fire. We're just saying that we don't absolve you from any of the criminal implications of it. But today, you can order Dr. Doofenshmirtz's one-of-a-kind pamphlet on how you can solve your problems with fire. Just don't blame us. Alrighty, back to you, sir.
Well, Billy, we did it. I don't think we were able to get the advertiser in because advertising is hard. Listen, stick around.
I did the advertiser. You weren't listening.
Big stuff going on. Fighting, Dems, Republicans, abortion. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. You mentioned the 7 o'clock hour of the Monday show on this 14th of August. George Brauchler with you until 10 o'clock. Charlie Kirk takes over after that. Dennis Prager at 11 to 1. Then Seb Gorka. Then I think, Deb, it's just weird. I just never know who's covering for whom at this point. So Deb at 3-ish. And then Stefan, hopefully back from 4 to 7. If not, we'll have somebody awesome. I don't know what else to say about that, but let me tell you about somebody awesome that's coming to town. His name is Dennis Prager. He's coming to the 3rd annual cigar night. This is such a unique and awesome opportunity. If you are a Prager fan and a 710 listener, you can go to 710knus.com, get to the little banner, click on it, get your tickets, and then come join me on August the 30th, me and the rest of the hosts. Stefan will be there, or at least that's the threat. Deb will be there, and so will Dennis Prager. Very intimate environment at a very cool setting. The View House right out there in Centennial off of I-25. Super easy to get to. You get a premium cigar, a drink. There's a carving station, hors d'oeuvres. You get to put on some weight and do some things that your doctor would advise against, because that's freedom, folks. So check it out at 710knus.com and join me for the 3rd annual Dennis Prager Cigar Night. Now, here's what's going on. It's very interesting. There are some things that are taking place. I thought that Dobbs would have either ended the conversation about abortion's impact on politics, or would have at least addressed it in such an intensive way that this last election, and by the way, folks, this 2022 midterm election, abortion was on the ballot, whether it was on the ballot or not. And if you don't acknowledge that, I need to know why you don't think that happened, because it drove out turnout in states and caused things to shift in places where you would have expected Republicans to do far better. The reason we don't have the U.S. Senate is Dobbs, in my opinion. The reason that our candidates didn't fare better, even in a state of Colorado, which has the most liberal abortion policies maybe on the planet Earth, in part, not entirely, in part was Dobbs. So there are different states that have tried to take different approaches now that states are going to be the determinants of what, I guess, restrictions, if any, are placed on abortion. This thing's now going to show up on ballots. And I'm here to tell you that the end of this discussion that we have is Colorado is going to see something on the ballot for 2024 that is amending our state constitution to allow abortion, probably up to and forever, probably for eternity. And it is there for the Democrats to drive up the vote and to vote for them and the people on the ballot. They have no statewide candidates, right? So they can't count on millions of dollars in U.S. Senate candidate funds to come in and drive their message. There's no governor, AG, secretary, state treasurer, none of that. So they can't drive up the turnout that way. What they need to do is to have on the ballot those things that focus people on the idea that, hey, we're the party of reproductive freedom, whatever you want to define that as. And they're going to try to do that by my guess is, if they didn't, it would be a huge missed opportunity to put an amendment to our Constitution that would enshrine abortion access in there. Now, the state of Ohio saw the same thing. They knew it was coming. And so they offered something called Issue 1. And now in November, there will be some sort of a vote, I imagine. If it's not this November, it'll be next, enshrining in their Constitution protection for people seeking abortions. Now, Ohio right now, pretty red state, used to be super purple. They're trying to get it back to purple, if not lean blue, for 2024 by offering up this abortion protection amendment. So the legislature and a bunch of other pro-life people got together and they offered up Issue 1. And Issue 1 said, hey, if you're going to amend our Constitution, you have to achieve at least a 60% vote of the people. Now, based on polling on this abortion in the Constitution issue, that would have been the end. It would have lost because it's never polled better than 56, 57%. So that was before any of the spending. So that would have ended it. So this opportunity to really block any other amendments was couched not so much in terms of abortion for the people trying to pass it, even though that was what was going on. is that it was an attempt to try to keep third-party interests and these outside groups from being able to fill this foundational document with whatever they wanted. Well, that thing was on the ballot last Tuesday, and it got crushed. And it got crushed in large part because the message that was sent by the other side wasn't abortion. It wasn't about abortion. Instead, it was about one person, one vote. And that's what they were saying is, why are we changing the goalposts now to deprive citizens of the state of Ohio the opportunity to amend their constitution? Now, in Colorado, if you remember, we already went down this road and we did it. It used to be simple majority, and that didn't make much sense because that was also the same level you needed to achieve to put in a statutory change as a citizen initiative. But we bumped ours to 55%. Well, in Ohio, they tried 60%, which is much like the open primary opt-out number, 75% of the total membership, a near impossibility. Very, very hard to do it. And so what happened is they had this election last week on it, and this thing got crushed. It got crushed 57 to 42. That's a 15-point swing. 57 to 42. Bam. And so, of course, all the pro-choice people went nuts celebrating this. And they went nuts celebrating it in part because they think it's an opportunity for them to now enshrine in the Constitution this thing. So they're going to do it. They're going to put that on the ballot. Something else that just happened, by the way, is that some other liberal group has offered up a ballot measure to end qualified immunity for law enforcement and a host of other government officials, but nobody cares about those government officials. This is really about cops, trying to take away qualified immunity from cops. The minute this thing lost, they put that out there as, we're going to go get the signatures necessary to launch this into the ballot. Well, so this is coming for Colorado, is my sense. Not the qualified immunity part. It might. We already kind of did that damage in the post-George Floyd. What was that? Senate Bill 217. This is something different. We're going to see, in my opinion, an attempt to amend our Constitution to enshrine abortion rights just as a vehicle to drive up the vote. But inside this discussion is, where is the Republican Party moving forward on pro-life, and where is the Democrat Party on this issue moving forward? And I'm going to offer you up a couple examples. Now, Sean Hannity, if you haven't heard this clip, listen to it. There's some stuff in the background there, but you will hear him talk about what he believes to be the way forward for Republicans, because Ohio, I don't think anyone expected it to go down in flames that hard, especially in a state that Trump has won a bunch and that is red. We consider it a red state. And this attempt to limit the ability of abortion to be enshrined in the Constitution got just crushed. So this is what Hannity says.
I think the American people, and I consider myself pro-life, I believe in the sanctity of life, but I think politically that Republicans have got to say, as Bill Clinton once said, I never thought I'd quote him, rare, legal, and I'd add the word very early in a pregnancy. That seems to be politically where the country is. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. That vote in Ohio was pretty sobering.
It was a sobering vote. And I think the Democrats across the country see that and say, aha, this is the way we drive up our turnout, especially unaffiliated women. This is our opportunity to peel them away from any potentially attractive Republican answer to whoever's in office now or whoever they want to put in office. It's an opportunity to blunt the impact of these other ballot measures. So they're going to put these on the ballot, in my opinion, everywhere they possibly can, especially for November 2024, to try to drive up the vote. That's the narrative they want. They don't want the narrative on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the $20 million from the Russians and the Ukrainians and the fill-in-the-blankians. They don't want that discussion. They want the discussion on abortion. But we're not the only ones having that conversation, and I'm interested in hearing your position on this. The Democrats are also having this same discussion, and you would think, no, George, they're monolithic on this. They are absolutely all abortion all the time, 100%. We ought to be handing out abortions at school along with pencils. You know what I mean? That would be your perception of them, is my guess. But that's not what happened. If you look at the Denver Post, and I just don't do it that much anymore, they have a very, very interesting opinion piece. It is penned by three super lefty, I know that sounds redundant now, Colorado Democrat legislators. Representative Lisa Cutter, kind of out there in the western part of just outside the metro area. Julie Gonzalez, who is a state senator from right there in Denver. And then Meg Froelich, who is a representative from, Inglewood, Sheridan area, that kind of the southern part of the metro area. And they have this opinion piece. Now, they don't come up with the title or the lead for it. That's come up with by the editor of the editorial page. But it's called Polis Careless Words Disappoint. Colorado women expect better from our allies. Governor Jared Polis is our ally. And by the way, they spell it A-L-L-I-E. Isn't ally A-L-L-Y? Well, now this one is spelled, maybe this is a gender neutral ally. I don't know, but it's spelled I-E, and he should choose his words more carefully. Folks, this thing is so telling and disturbing on a lot of different levels. Let me begin by saying I'm a Roman Catholic guy and I'm pro-life, but I also accept that what Sean Hannity says, I think, is politically, pragmatically, the only approach at this moment in time moving forward that is going to blunt, I think, the trend that we're seeing with these ballot initiatives and some candidate issues. We'll try to turn the assessor's office into an abortion issue. Where are you on abortion, assessor person or treasurer or county commissioner, where it really has no impact? But this is what this thing says. These three super lefty legislators say, this is how it starts off. Words matter. Representation matters. And to the great disappointment, their words, the great disappointment of the Democratic Women's Caucus of Colorado, our governor failed to demonstrate an understanding of that in a series of recent public comments and actions. And of course, because he's not a Republican, they also laud some praise on him. They call him thoughtful and compassionate, and he cares about the people. You know, if this had been like a Governor Bill Owens or a Governor Heidi Ganahl, it would have been hammer and tong, right? But here he's super nice. He's compassionate. He loves people. But it says it's incumbent upon him to carefully choose words that reflect his understanding of the real issues. Wait for it. Those identifying as women, which comprise 49.2% of his constituents, face. So there we are, folks. It's not women anymore. It's those identifying as women. But it goes on. They identify several things that he said that irk them, that cause them to question his commitment to abortion all the time under every circumstance. And there's one in particular that I found really offensive. They said the first thing that he did was when Mayor Yemi Mobilade, am I saying that right, Billy? Do you know how to say his last name? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. I don't mean any disrespect there. In Colorado Springs, remember, he defeats Wayne Williams and he becomes the new mayor. At that sort of, hey, congratulations, he goes down there, and Yemi's an unaffiliated. But the governor goes down there, and I like this. I think this makes a lot of sense. I want to see the governor go down and cheer on people for their elections, even when they're not Democrats. It says the governor recognized Focus on the Family for their good work they do in the community. That was offensive to them. And here's why it's offensive. Because Focus on the Family has actively worked to undermine progress on values our caucus holds dear, including, now they don't say abortion, they just won't say that, including comprehensive reproductive health care. Comprehensive means including ending reproduction, and the rights of all people to express themselves as individuals and to be free to love who they choose. So for that, because Jared Polis went down south and acknowledged a hugely influential and important, non-governmental organization, but this private entity that goes out there trying to champion Christian values and pro-family stuff, that causes them grave concern that he would say they do good work in the community, and they do good work in the community. But I think the one that really set them on fire here was they reference an appearance on CNN that took place a few weeks ago. The governor is, and I don't know if we have this whole clip. Do we just have his answer, Billy? Because We have
Dana Bash's question, and then
okay. So we have Dana Bash's question. We'll put that in there too. But the governor ends up saying something that makes them really, really upset. Listen to this.
Some in your party might argue that it's naive to call for more respectful debate at a time when many Republicans are just, for example, trying to restrict abortion access or roll back LGBTQ rights. You're the first openly gay man elected governor. How would you disagree better with someone who says your marriage is not legitimate?
Look, you start with a common ground on something like abortion choice. Democrats don't believe that abortion is good. We believe it's bad. It should be minimized. How do you prevent unwanted pregnancy?
Oops. Guy says, we Democrats, he's speaking for the party. By the way, he's the head of the party out here, right? Highest level elected official in the Democrat Party. He says Democrats don't believe that abortion is good. We think it's bad and we want to minimize its use. OMG. Lisa Cutter, Julie Gonzalez, and Meg Froelich, all elected officials from in and around the metro area, they pull their hair out and say, how could you say such things? They describe that statement as their chosen words, deeply troubling. It's deeply troubling to say that we don't view abortion as good. And this is from a governor, by the way, who would gladly support abortion 100% of the time whenever you want up until age 8 to cut down on the cost of the free preschool or something. The statement is deeply troubling and not consistent with the right to make private medical decisions. What? Now, this is the part I found the most friggin' offensive. Listen to what they liken abortion to. Chemotherapy and radiation are unpleasant medical procedures. We wish we didn't need them, but they are necessary healthcare procedures. That's right, folks. These three clowns likened the voluntary discretionary choice to terminate an abortion, to terminate what would grow into a baby, to chemotherapy and radiation. That fetus to them is no more than an unexcised tumor. It is cancer inside of a woman. And so they have said, Governor, we disagree with your comment that abortion is bad and it should be minimized. They want to embrace abortion and treat it as if it's getting rid of something that is killing you. They liken abortion to chemotherapy and radiation. That is disgusting. And that's taking place inside this state's Democrat Party, which has its hands on the levers of every level of government in the state. That's these three taking on their governor, a governor who couldn't be described as anything other than pro-choice. But because he dared to say abortion is bad, we want to minimize it. We're not going to do anything to keep women from exercising whatever their claimed right is for. We're not going to do that. But oh my God, they've likened terminating a pregnancy to chemotherapy and radiation. Now, in a real city and state with real media, they would be on these three like glue, demanding for them to justify how they liken cancer to a pregnancy. But you haven't heard a single person yet. This was just released. I'm optimistic that 9 News, that 7, 4, KDVR, somebody is going to demand them to answer the question, how is a pregnancy like cancer? How did you liken an abortion to life-saving chemotherapy and radiation? That's offensive. Nobody chooses to get cancer. And outside of maybe being a career smoker that increases your chances of lung cancer, I can tell you, my mom died from brain cancer, 2 craniotomies later. You think she chose that? You think there was something about her lifestyle that encouraged cancer in her brain? And these 3 clowns liken what my mom went through with chemotherapy and radiation to a discretionary abortion. Well, shame on you. Shame on. This isn't about pro-choice. This is about having reduced down life, and not just potential life, actual life, and the termination of it to getting rid of life-killing cancer. That's the Democrat Party today. That's these 3 right here. And the Denver Post promotes this thing. It's on the top of above the fold, if you will, on their website. They're proud of this. I've never seen a paper more pro-kill babies than the Denver Post. That editorial staff, if you said anything other than abortion is glorious and it is wonderful and it ought to be embraced and encouraged at every single turn, if you said anything other than that, the Post would take a position against you. My God, if you remember this, they chose Phil Weiser to endorse for re-election. And if you read that endorsement, I read this thing to you. It had less to do with his competence in the office, which that you couldn't defend, man. The guy keeps getting kicked in the briefs by courts everywhere. Supreme Court on down to state courts to federal court. Dude can't buy himself a win, right? They endorsed him because John Kellner was pro-life and because they didn't believe John Kellner would fight hard enough for abortion in a state that has the most liberal abortion laws. Even though John said, listen, I disagree with it, but I will fight to defend our laws. This paper puts this garbage out for you to digest. They're going to call out, I can't believe I'm defending Jared Polis. Shame on you, Post, for putting me in this position. Jared Polis says something that if you're pro-choice, you want people to think like this. Yeah, I don't like abortion. I don't think it's great. I don't want women to find themselves in this position from one decision to one circumstance to another. I would never interfere with their choices to do whatever. But we don't want more of it. We want less of it. And instead, we've got these three clowns likening a pregnancy to cancer. And the Denver Post editorial board, happy to put it out there. Happy to print this thing in the paper and push it forward. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of clicks, but I wonder if anybody in the mainstream media will confront these three and say, why did you liken abortion? Why did you liken a pregnancy, an unborn child, to cancer? That tells you all you need to know about what they think about the sanctity of life. They will get rid of the death penalty because they want to protect the lives of murderous scum, but they will liken an innocent unborn baby to cancer. That's your Colorado, folks. That's what your voting does. But I think the bigger question is, do Republicans have to take pro-life Republicans have to take a different approach moving forward, like Sean Hannity said? Is what Sean Hannity said important enough for us to reconsider what we do in the political sphere? 303-696-1971. I know Dwayne from Divide's on. I'll get to you, Dwayne, right after this. I'll play the clip for Hannity too. One a little bit long, but I'm just kind of pissed off that they would take this approach, and the Post is just like, yep, let's just put it out there. Pregnancy is just like cancer. That's right. Abortions are just like chemotherapy and radiation. It's disgusting. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy your next?
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I took my pills. Still a little animated over the fact that these three Gong Show representatives, Lisa Cutter, Julie Gonzalez, and Meg Froelich, likened pregnancy to cancer and abortions to chemotherapy and radiation. But I wanted to get your take on this from a pretty strong, outspoken conservative. His name's Sean Hannity.
I think the American people, and I consider myself pro-life. I believe in the sanctity of life, but I think politically that Republicans have got to say, as Bill Clinton once said, I never thought I'd quote him, rare, legal, and I'd add the word very early in a pregnancy. That seems to be politically where the country is. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. That vote in Ohio is pretty sobering.
Sobering indeed. The effort to change the way the Constitution was amended in order to prevent enshrining abortion rights into the Constitution died 57 to 42. Here's a text. I don't think Republicans' electability problems are limited to abortion. 2022 Democratic voters rated both health care and the future of democracy as more influential than abortion in that election per Pew. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it helps the brand that Mike Pence is out there advocating for a national federal ban, but the modern Trump era Republicans will need deeper reforms to win back voters. 303-696-1971. Dwayne, you're on 710. Dwayne, what do you think?
Well, good morning, sir. A couple of things. One, if you ever get passionate about a subject, we really would like to do that as listeners to see you feel about it.
I'm saving it for something really good.
Well, okay. Secondly, condolences to you about your mom. I've had a couple of family members.
Oh, thank you, man.
Go from my dad with
25 years ago, so we're good.
25 days, 25 minutes.
I know.
Years,
and you never get over it.
Still hurts.
But thank you, man.
And that's it. All righty. So I have to sit there and say that everyone who didn't vote for a Republican senatorial candidate in Colorado because they didn't like his stance would now be sitting there, clamoring to put a man in who would say 16 weeks, 20 weeks. Don't you think?
I don't know. That's such a good question. Do you agree with Hannity? Does this mean, in light of what happened in Ohio, considered a pretty red state, that Republicans need to shift fire on this issue, that we need to come up with an approach that is more palatable to the majority of voters out there?
The people who voted for this were women, young women under 35. And the situation there becomes one of, they are so brainwashed and so conditioned to believe that they must have the ability to get one and everything else. As I asked you a couple of years ago, how often does somebody get one of these? Every 6 weeks with a mani-pedi? The question is that they've been brainwashed, and I'm going to upset a few listeners here. Ladies who sit there and think that it is an option they must have. We need to sit there and convince otherwise. Mike Pence is a joke. He's not going to be anything. He'll be off the stage on the second debate, and he'll be gone. After what he said to Tucker, he needs to be gone.
Interestingly, he probably stands a better chance at this moment of making the second stage than the first one, just in terms of the standards that they've set. Do you think then that in the future, for instance, I know Mike Pence has called for the federal ban. Do you think that's a position that every one of these Republican candidates for the nomination are going to end up having to take? Where's the pushback when somebody's asked in front of a group of grassroots conservatives, would you support a federal ban on abortion? What answer can they give other than yes that won't alienate that crowd?
I think what we have to come back down to is what we talked about with Tim Scott a couple of months ago. I like the man. I love his politics. I love his stance. But right now, I need a warrior. I need a man who's going to go in there with a couple of chainsaws and make Mike Myers from Friday the 13th look like a child. We need to battle
That's
against
Halloween,
these
by
people.
The way. Mike Myers was Halloween.
Well, whatever.
Freddy Krueger
whatever.
was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, well, they're all
Jason
nightmares, when you go
through. It's so many.
Okay, so we have to have bad guys who go in there and terrify people and get them back. These people feel like they're absolutely empowered. They feel like they have nobody stopping them. It is 1930s Germany coming back for a lot of people. If you look at history, everything that's happening is becoming a situation.
Have we lost the pulse of America on this issue? I mean, even a governor who wants to hold himself out to be libertarian. And he's not. He's super progressive. But even this guy's comments that, hey, Democrats don't believe abortion is good, it's bad, and we need to minimize the number. Even that comment gets a strong in the Denver Post rebuke from 3 hyper-partisan progressives out there who liken pregnancy to cancer. I mean, that's what's going on out there. Are they closer to the reality of the American voter, or are we? I mean, is even taking the steps that Hannity suggests, are those even enough?
I come back to, again, I don't want to see it happen. I have a 12-year-old because of the reason that my sister did not.
Yeah.
And now I'm raising him. Okay, so I have that option there. What we have to do pragmatically is we have to now sit there and say, okay, there are things I don't like. There are things that I don't care for in the federal budget. There are things I don't care for in the state budget. But I pay the taxes, 1, because I don't like being homeless. It really sucks. But 2, I want to make sure that I get to enjoy the other pleasures of being in the country. We now have to sit there and have a shaded situation to where we go, all right, the less we talk about this, the less polarizing it's going to be. And as far as polarizing goes, where has Governor Polis been? I got mold in my tub that keeps coming back more than he does anymore politically. We never see him anymore. I haven't heard from him in over a year, it seems like. And now he's coming out with this. It's now to sit there and say, oh, well, we need to be calm so we don't get crazy. And what do we have? 3 crazies jumping up and, looking, absolutely insane.
Well, one of the texters, and Dwayne, by the way, thank you for getting us kicked off on this, man. I always appreciate your insights. One of the texters said, hey, get them on the air. Get any one of the, yeah, okay, I'll ask Billy to reach out to them. The chances of them willingly coming on air here, my guesses are somewhere around 0. But Billy, maybe we email all 3 and just say, love to have a conversation with you about your op-ed piece there in the Post, because you can take issue with some of the other things that they said. I mean, they punch Polis in the face over the focus on the family comment, but this likening of pregnancy to cancer, are they closer to the truth now? Is this where we are with the American populace and even Colorado? Do we need to shift because we've moved so far away from the pro-life issue? 303-696-1971. Tony, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, good morning, George.
Hey, sir.
You and I've talked, I think, a little bit about this in the past, and I think that the Republican Party is going to have to ask themselves, why are we not attracting more women, more young people, and minorities? And conversely, why are we attracting white nationalists and conspiracy theorists and QAnon disciples? And if you answer that question, when you get to the answer on that question, you'll have what your new future campaign or new party would look like. But specifically on abortion, I heard the same thing that Hannity talked about. I heard a guy on Levin saying basically the same thing. We better change our position and talk about approving early first trimester abortions and so forth. And my position is this: the horses will have the barn. There's no position that the Republican Party can come in and take, well, we'll support this, because you've got guys out there like DeSantis and Texas, 6-week abortion bans, prosecuting people who, and Idaho just put this through, prosecuting anybody who assists a woman to move to a state, to go cross state. That's third. I mean, that's crazy.
So what's the answer then, Tony? Give us the answer for the Republican Party on this abortion issue.
There isn't an answer. You've taken a position. The party's taken such a harsh position, and we saw the midterms. We saw Ohio. We saw Kansas, right? Kansas, another red state, yeah. And they absolutely rejected it. When we get to 24, and that's when general election, Dems are going to turn out. They're going to turn out in huge numbers. What I think you're looking at is you're looking at states that are right now purplish. Again, Arizona, Georgia, maybe North Carolina. You're looking at states like that this is going to be such a hot button issue for Democrats. You're going to have women turning out in very big numbers, even Republican women at rejecting the Republican Party over it.
Tony, last question then. what do we do pragmatically? There's only a couple positions that can be taken here. One is to say, nope, we're sticking to our guns. We are a pro-life party. It is in our platform, and we are going to die on that hill out of principle. Or is it we need to adjust to the electorate? We need to protect life where we can, but we need to discourage this idea that you can have abortion up to kindergarten or whatever it is that we have in Colorado now. I mean, there's only a couple options here. Which one should the Republicans take and why?
All right. So I think maybe I told you. You remember when Mark Sanford, the former governor of South Carolina, South Carolina, and he was doing a listening tour, and he was going to run in 2020. Well, I had a chance to lock up with him one-on-one for about 45 minutes, and I'll say the same thing to you that I said to him then. He had no chance of beating Trump, but he has a chance to remake the Republican Party and try and restore it and come to a different kind of message. I think the party is ultimately going to have to change its position on this issue as a part of its remaking itself after Trump burns it down in this election, and which he will. And I'm predicting now, either way, whether he gets the nomination or he doesn't get the nomination, he will burn down the Republican Party in 24. And I realize that's a different subject for a different day. I'd love to we'll have that conversation. But when it's over, the Republican Party, if you want women, I'll go right back to what I opened up with. How do you attract more women, minorities, and young people? And right now, the Republican Party is on the wrong side of all three. And you're going to have to get on the right side of all three. And abortion is that issue.
Tony, thanks for this. I appreciate that, Tony. Thank you, man. It sounds like we were just breaking up there a little bit. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our super smarties at Alpine Planning. But honestly, I want to keep this conversation going because this is 2024 for us, folks. If we continue to lose unaffiliated women, and maybe even some Republican women, and I wonder if this is the issue that's going to do it, what possible hope do we have of taking back, my God, the presidency? Some statewide office in the future. This could end up being, once again, one of the defining issues of the campaign. How do we address it? Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show where we get to be both entertained and informed by our favorite from Alpine Planning. It's Amy Duncan. Amy, you have all of the 3 minutes left.
All right, George. Well, I'm going to talk really slow then. No, just kidding.
Are you back from the big trip to South Dakota, by the way?
Yeah, we arrived home this weekend, and what a great part of the country.
Still
So,
haven't
had a
completed
blast.
that crazy horse, though, huh?
No, they still haven't. But Mount Rushmore is pretty dang
It
cool,
is awesome.
And being there
Awesome.
during Sturgis was actually a blast, even though we
That's
never went
cool.
up to Sturgis. So. Anyway, taking a look at Wall Street, we've got the Dow off 75. The S&P is negative only by a hair, down about 3 points. NASDAQ, similar story. Really kind of sideways markets last week, George. Mixed, but no major movements. The S&P and NASDAQ finished down, but the Dow was up 0.6%. So this is a big week in terms of earnings, and it's really what Brian and Gabe and I will be watching because we've got some of the big Dow components. In terms of big box retail, right? Pick a name. We've got Home Depot reporting Tuesday. Home Depot, of course, is interesting as it provides, more color. Their earnings will, maybe orange, shall we say, to the condition of the housing market. And again, as rates have risen so much, the housing market continues to stay in the spotlight. Then Target and TJ Maxx report Wednesday, and then Walmart and Ross on Thursday. So again, Dow components, we're going to see some big market moves, I think. And also it'll give us a closer look at the appetite of the U.S. consumer. So last but not least, the open road does give you some time for good reading. And I wanted to bring this up for your listeners. There's been plenty of questions and some doubters on what is classically referred to as the 60-40 portfolio, right? 60% stock, 40% bonds. Whether it works or not, 2022, a 60-40 portfolio was not nearly as stable as it should have been. But over the last 15 years, if you compare a 60-40 portfolio with an initial investment of $10,000 in a 15-year time frame, you would have finished with almost $27,000. You compare that against what we call the ride the wave philosophy, right? Which is essentially buying the prior year's best performing
and just
asset
stay in the
class.
course.
Well, and no, the 60-40 is stay in the course.
Oh, okay.
Riding the wave is actually trying to time by buying what
got it.
was the best performer last year. That one finished with half as much, which is $13,000. And then last but not least, the buy the dip, which is you make a one-time investment and then try to reallocate, came in at like $6,500. So I want to just bring that up because, again, people are always kind of second-guessing their portfolio in light of volatility and market conditions. I think oftentimes it's about the proper asset allocation and just rebalancing as needed, but making sure your advisor knows what you need. So
nailed
as
it,
always,
Amy.
call us with questions.
Amen. Alpine Planning Group's a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, it is a matter of trust. They're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here halfway through the Monday show on this 14th of August 2023. Listen, I want to pick up where we left off here. This topic, way too hot to let go. Phone lines are 303-696-1971. Here's the backdrop of all this. Republicans appear to be on the ropes in a whole bunch of different states on issues related to access to abortion. Now, it's always couched in terms on the other side as reproductive health care choices when it's actually the end of reproduction. But nonetheless, politically, it appears that this is a galvanizing, motivating force for a lot of voters. My presumption is mainly women who view this as a matter of individual autonomy and liberty on their own. And whether you want to debate that or not is not the point of this. The point of this conversation is to have a discussion about what Sean Hannity just said and what three super lefty abortion on demand up through college legislators have done in the pages of the pro-abortion Denver Post, taking shots at Governor Polis. Let me just recap that with you, and then we'll get to Joan, we'll get to Liberal Chris. We've missed Liberal Chris, haven't heard from him in a while. And the other calls at 303-696-1971, as well as some of the text here. So in Ohio last week, there was an attempt to increase the margin that any ballot initiative would have to overcome, and that hurdle was 60% is what they set it for, which would have made it largely unamendable. And it got crushed. It got crushed 57-42. That's a 15-point swing. That's a bloodletting in any political endeavor. And what that means now is that by a regular simple majority, the pro-abortion forces in Ohio are going to put onto the ballot the option of protecting abortion rights in the Constitution. My guess is the Republicans are right to worry about that, because just about everywhere it's been offered, it has passed. And so then that outcome, that bloodletting, was so broad and so bad that even conservative pro-life Sean Hannity had some thoughts on what it should do to the Republican Party.
I think the American people, and I consider myself pro-life, I believe in the sanctity of life, but I think politically that Republicans have got to say, as Bill Clinton once said, I never thought I'd quote him, rare, legal, and I'd add the word very early in a pregnancy. That seems to be politically where the country is. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. That vote in Ohio is pretty sobering.
Now that's interesting, but it may be even worse than that. And certainly in Colorado, if you look at Colorado, you can turn to the pages of the Abortion All the Time Denver Post, and they have promoted at the above the fold, if you will, on their website, for those that still read the Post, an op-ed piece, column penned by Representatives Cutter and Froelich and State Senator Julie Gonzalez, all three super lefties under the legislature, under the Gold Dome, which sounds redundant these days, I know. But they take Governor Jared Polis to task. Why? Why do they punch super liberal Governor Jared Polis? Because Jared Polis had the audacity to go down to Colorado Springs after the election of Yemi Moblade. If I mispronounce that, I apologize. And because he said good things about focus on the family's work in the community, they punch him in the face over that, saying, hey, they're working contrary to our progressive agenda when it comes to, and they won't say the word abortion. They'll say something along the lines of here it is, comprehensive reproductive health care. That's their way of describing abortion. And the rights of all people to express themselves as individuals and to be free to love who they choose. Now, keep in mind, this is an openly gay governor, first in the country, who had the audacity, got married, by the way, while he was governor, to another dude. This guy went down and felt comfortable saying good things about the work that focus on the family. And they're calling him out saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that because they're not in favor of same-sex marriage. The gay governor said good things, and they're punching like he doesn't know what he's doing. This is the worst part. He goes on to CNN, and this is what he says in response to a Dana Bash question.
Some in your party might argue that it's naive to call for more respectful debate at a time when many Republicans are just, for example, trying to restrict abortion access or roll back LGBTQ rights. You're the first openly gay man elected governor. How would you disagree better with someone who says your marriage is not legitimate?
Look, you start with a common ground on something like abortion choice. Democrats don't believe that abortion is good. We believe it's bad. It should be minimized. How do you prevent unwanted pregnancy?
What do you think about that? Woo! Highly controversial, right? He says we're not the party of abortion is good. We're the party of abortion is bad. But he wants to fight for it because of all the issues related to these arguments of autonomy and integrity and reproductive health care stuff. So you can disagree with his position on abortion, but the things he said, what? And so they crush him on that. And they say those comments are deeply troubling. And then they liken pregnancy to cancer. And this is their comment. The statement is deeply troubling and not consistent with the right to make private medical decisions. Chemotherapy and radiation are unpleasant medical procedures. We wish we didn't need them, but they are necessary healthcare procedures. Now think about that. Here's a guy who wants to be president, who fashions himself to be this sort of moderate, libertarian-leaning politician when you know he's super progressive. But even his position that we think abortion is bad and we want to minimize it, but we still think it ought to be a right, that isn't even enough. He gets taken to task by his own party, the Democrat Women's Caucus. Do Republicans need to shift their position on pro-life in order to win races in the future? I mean, nationally, in Colorado? I mean, there are people that are texting in here. Like, here's one. If the Republican Party capitulates to Dems on abortion, how many more issues do we give in on? I say we die on this hill. The Dems are the party of extremists, and we need to draw the line. Gino, I get it. But what does that mean? We continue to throw up candidates who will continue to get crushed at the polls to the point where we're a minority party? We're not relevant anymore? Do we think if we just send the message, the pro-life message enough, we're going to win over other voters? I mean, the opportunity to expose the Democrats, especially these ones in the Denver Post, as the extremists, let's kill babies all the way up through kindergarten type folks, the only way to expose them is to not be the other side of the extremist issue. And that's how it's presented right now. 303-696-1971. Joan, you're on 710. What do you think, Joan?
Good morning, George.
Hey.
I think that this is very, very interesting that Polis went on CNN and said what he said. And I believe that Polis has been looking at some of the polls that they've taken across the United States. And even Sean Hannity has said we have to modify because this is where people are at. And I think that POTUS recognizes that people are not at, let's kill everything up to 3 seconds after it comes out of the birth canal, and is pushing his agenda more to the middle because he wants to be president.
So what do you think the answer is for us then, Joan? What's the answer for pro-life Republicans?
Well, I'm going to use an interesting example on you. Lisa Cutter was all about Bill 1202, which was this bill that they put up for overdose protection centers authorization, right? So the overdose protection center authorization was actually another name for the supervised injection site.
Yep.
Okay? They just changed the language. And that did not pass because
this time. It did not pass this time.
Okay, it hasn't passed a couple of times. And one of the reasons is because this radio station stood up and said no. But the other thing that kind of made me go, wow, what's going on here, is that Brittany Patterson came out and her only bill, the only bill that Brittany Patterson has put up is an anti-fentanyl bill, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The woman who was pushing supervised injection sites goes to Congress and decides maybe fentanyl is not a good thing. Well, I'm going to tell you what they're doing is they're doing what they think people want to hear, and this is what Democrats have always done. And
is it successful for them in doing that?
Up to a point, but now I don't think it's going to be so successful. And the reason why is because of Bidenomics. Biden now is out there telling people, oh, you're doing so much better. You're doing so much better. And I can tell you, I got on Nextdoor and I asked a question about the size of candy that I got. I got
Joan, do you think those issues that you're talking about that are real pocketbook issues, those are going to blunt or negate this abortion issue? Because I haven't seen that in the state of Colorado, and I'm not sure that we're going to see it in America.
I think that you will not see the abortion thing brought up as much in Colorado because the Republicans are standing up and saying, baby killers.
I don't think so. Joan, I got to be honest, I disagree with you. I think that you're going to see this thing on the ballot. It's going to be offered as a constitutional amendment next year in 2024, probably a referred measure from the legislature, which means they get to draft the language. We now know from the appellate courts, really anything they want to say, they get to put on there. But you and I have to say things that get curtailed by and edited by the title board. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be on there. And why wouldn't they? It's a winning issue for them in the state of Colorado.
I'll tell you why not. Because Colorado changed the bar. Colorado went from 50 plus 1 to 55. And if you look at some of the polls and stuff and where people are at, now they might be able to codify it by saying 15 weeks or something like that, but they're not going to be able to codify abortion for everybody and their mother and what they're going to do right up to birth. People do not like the thought of babies' heads being taken off so they can save the organs, so they can sell the organs. They don't like that.
Let me just run this by you, Joan, and I appreciate you starting the conversation. But listen to this. You said, hey, I don't think they're going to achieve the 55% constitutional amendment. Remember that we had on the ballot just in 2020, another presidential election year, Proposition 115. That was the due date too late, trying to end late-term abortions, right? With the votes that were counted, it lost, and I don't have the final numbers I'm looking at, but it's down. It was down like 59% to about 40%. That is well in excess of the 50, and that's just late-term abortions. I can foresee them crafting some constitutional amendment to drive people to the ballots. Because they want to secure their Democrat majority. They want to secure Biden in the White House. And Joan, I appreciate the position. Hey, I think that these economics issues are going to defeat that. I disagree. I think we saw that. with the midterm elections. I mean, my God, we had every issue in our favor in the state of Colorado and nationally. The economy, the mishandled retreat from Afghanistan, the laptop stuff, crime, rampant crime. We had all of it. And we got smoked here. And it wasn't because we weren't pro-life enough. I think we just completely underestimated, I did, the impact of the Dobbs decision. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Billy did early on, and I was just wrong, man. Billy was right on this. Jones line is open, 303-696-1971. Let's go to Liberal Chris. We miss you, man. What are you up to?
Still live here in Portland, Oregon. It's getting cleaned up quite a bit more. We still have several homeless encampments, more like on the northeast side of town, but they've mostly swept the downtown tents. So we still have open air fentanyl distribution pretty much every night that sunsets about 8 o'clock, and everyone just kind of comes and gets their fix. The cops go home at 6. And people just kind of like conk off.
What are your thoughts on this thing, man?
I think that the Democratic Party doesn't want to be seen as like savage baby killers. I don't think they want to sort of be portrayed as this meme of like being heartless. So of course they're going to sell abortion access in like a much more like palatable way. I guess I was having a hard time understanding what your question was for the audience. Are you saying Jared Polis is just pandering that he's just being dishonest and that
No,
Democrats.
no, not at all,
for
man. My point is Sean Hannity right here for Republicans that we need to shift our position on this because the electorate has moved off of the pro-life issue, the majority of the electorate. And the Polis example is to say, my God, you can't even say as a Democrat, as the leading Democrat in the state, you can't even say abortion is bad, even if it's a necessary bad and we want to minimize it, without the party coming to beat you over the head. And so my question is, how far have we shifted from pro-life to pro-choice that the Republicans can continue to plant its flag in the ground on pro-life all the way? And I'm a pro-life guy, man. But what does that mean now to get elected in Colorado or in the United States?
It's going to be striking a balance. Well, let's just focus on Colorado. It's going to be a matter of striking that delicate balance between like the single issue, like abortion voter, and there's lots of them in Colorado, namely among like older Catholics. And if that, wing of the party is just not going to be as galvanized enough to turn out, even in smaller scale elections, if they feel like their single issue is just like not being heard, they're not going to turn out for a Democrat, probably just a matter of like cultural preference. But like placating the moderate, I can tell you, I mean, I've had female roommates after college that were culturally quite conservative. They were like into barrel racing and they liked the extremely patriotic. But they grew up in like real rural or like low income communities where they saw firsthand how there are other like females out there really needed to get access to abortion like at the right time to just avoid completely upending their life. So ordinarily you could count them as like a solid Republican vote. But they kind of like lived it day to day, whereas I guess as opposed to someone that might be a little more ideological on the pro-life issue that maybe hasn't been faced with that sort of like economic, or they've never been in that position before. I'm getting at? They're just a more libertarian.
I don't know if this is a matter of libertarian or not, because it seems to me libertarians want to protect the rights of the individual, and this is sort of substituting one individual's will for another's individual right to live. So, I mean, you can disagree with that, and when does life begin? But Chris, you can't deny that a position that likens pregnancy to cancer is extremist and disgusting, right? Even if you support a woman's right to choose. Now, somebody texted in here and says, well, some abortions are medically necessary and some are discretionary. What do you think that percentage is? Like 99-1?
Or yeah, that's probably about right, about 1% or less. But I think the metaphor about the cancer kind of goes back to the Julia Jarvis argument about the violinist. Like if you have a kidney patient, you can't hook yourself up to someone else so you can like filter your blood through their kidneys. So a lot of it is seen as like a pregnancy is a parasite, and that you should have
Sweet Jesus, man. Think about that. We have no chance to highlight how extremist and disgusting that approach is, as long as we're seen as the party of no abortion at any time ever. That's what they do. They have the mainstream media in their pocket, right? Like all of those people in the mainstream media are also pro-abortion. We see it with the Denver Post. You see it with the big channels, all that other stuff, because that's where I think that's what they believe. But there's no chance to get that message out as long as the focus is always on, should someone have the right to an abortion for rape or incest? I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, even Hannity says maybe it's time to reconsider the position that we took. By the way, Chris, always good to hear from you. I hope you'll call back in again. 303-696-1971 is the number. I got to cut away for a break, and I want to get Bill from Parker, always a great call, and the rest of you who are trying to call in on Chris's line at 303-696-1971. A lot of texts coming in. I want to read those too. I'm always interested in people who demand that I answer their question in text, but absolutely refuse to get the guts to pick up the phone and call in and ask their question. I'm fascinated with the cowardice involved in hiding behind the text, but nonetheless, I encourage you to keep texting. We'll read the ones. I'll read that exchange on air if you want. Let me tell you about Gay Ribble with the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. I had mentioned before that from a story that Billy had read, and frankly, a conversation that we had in the 6 o'clock hour about how my brother left the state of Colorado because he couldn't afford to buy a house here for his family. He and his wife couldn't. And then Billy was talking about fear that his own kids won't ever be able to afford property here. And the issue wasn't, is it unaffordable? Of course, it's very difficult to afford. The question is it going to get better in the near future? I don't think so. So if you're looking to make a decision about selling your house and getting into a new one, it's a matter of timing. And the people that know the best timing to do this, where you end up making more on the front end when you sell and paying a reasonable or competitive rate on the back end, that's Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team. Those are the folks that have a website, gayhasthebuyers.com. Check it out. They have these free workshops and stuff out there. Gay is Gaye, hasthebuyers.com. They have 14,000 plus people waiting to take a shot at your home once you list it with them to sell. Nobody else has that. Nobody sells as fast as they do on average. Nobody sells for more than they do on average. Nobody. So if you want a winner, someone that you can say, can I trust you? And they'll earn that trust and then see you through both of these giant life-changing transactions all the way to a happy place for you and your family, then all you got to do is pick up the phone and call them at 833-301-SOLD. 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 When we come back, Bill, everybody else, and the text as well. It's George Brauchler, 710, KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Billy and I, of course, having a raging debate as the music wound down. I have no idea what happened there, but one of us looked at the clock and yelled the F word and then grabbed the microphone, and I apologize for any delay in that. No technical difficulties, just human operator error right there. Listen, 303-696-1971 is the number, talking about the Republican position on abortion and whether or not Sean Hannity is right that we need to shift fire and change our position, not from being pro-life, but in terms of pragmatic approaches to policy and the law. I just don't know the answer to that. We've had a bunch of texts coming in. Bill and Sandy, they're on the line. Here's one. It's very sad that we have to approve abortion to save the Republican Party. I never found caving to the left as an option that would be successful. It's our friend Norma. Republican Party 2.0, all the fiscal principles without the social shaming. Take care of babies once they're born instead of forgetting about them. Your earlier caller dismissed women 35 and under. He said that that's who's voting for these things as if they're just brainwashed. His solution was to brainwash them into his way of thinking. That's what's wrong with the Republican Party. If you try to talk to somebody who's pro-choice, the things they say are not logical, completely unhinged, in my opinion. They say things like miscarriages are going to be illegal. It's really hard to have a conversation. As a female voter that used to be Republican, now unaffiliated, I'm more than sick of hearing about it. Take abortion totally out of government and let people make their own peace with God and the devil. All private sector won't vote for either because of this. Frankly, I'd be interested to know if you are a Republican woman or unaffiliated woman, like, what is your position on this? Where do the Republicans need to be on this issue to keep or win your vote? 303-696-1971. We'll start with Bill, but then we're going to get to Sandy. Bill, you're on 710. What do you think?
Morning, George. Yeah, you know, when Clinton said safe, legal, and rare, I mean, he's saying rare because he's saying it's not desirable. You don't make something desirable rare, okay? You wouldn't make job creation safe, legal, and rare, or economic growth safe, legal, and rare. So, I mean, he's saying the same thing as Polis. And there are some extreme ideologues on both sides of this issue, and I think they're really hurting their position on both sides. These women are an example on the left. On the right, you have people like your buddy Danny Boy over there, who's saying that, you know, fetuses are babies and abortion is infanticide. And this gets into the heads of these Republicans who can't wrap their arms around about how wrong that is. Let me give you a little.
Well, hang on one second. I presume you're talking about Dan Caplis. Let me just say,
yes,
is a matter of sincere faith. I don't know how you can take issue with that. You can disagree with it, but I don't know how you can dismiss it, because there's Roman Catholic faith teaches this. I believe that too, but that is different than saying, here are my core faith-based values and beliefs, but here's what needs to take place for us to get to a position like, and I've asked myself this, is it, I have to be for 100% of saving every unborn life, or I can't take any position that would save 70% of them or 50% of them? I mean, is there a pragmatic approach that doesn't put me in contrast to my faith? I don't know the answer to that. Dan has an answer, and Dan's answer is, I'm pro-life, damn it. It's a matter of faith. And so I'm going to fight like hell for every other thing. So I don't find that he's wrong there. I just wonder, can the Republican Party win long-term, nationally, let alone here in Colorado, with an approach like that? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, when, you know, I think it's political prognostication. When Phil Weiser said you get to steal 3 cars for free, I said, okay, Phil, you're done. Okay, that shows how wrong I was. But when Dobbs
but
came
remember,
down,
he ran on abortion. He ran on mischaracterizing John Kilmer's position because he knew that he could convince women that John was something that he isn't, which is a guy that wouldn't fight to defend the law. What he didn't tell them is, I'm going to go fight in court and lose a lot.
Well, one thing I was not wrong on, almost the only thing in my life, is when Dobbs came down, I said, this is the death knell of the Colorado GOP, because they're not going to be able to deal with
you and
this
Billy
at
had
all.
that one nailed.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That's the only one I ever got right. I didn't think Trump would get elected or nominated back in 2016 and all this stuff. So I've been wrong all over the place. But I was right on that one. I said, the Colorado GOP, in the Colorado GOP, to get nominated statewide, you have to be a purist on abortion, and which means you're DOA on election
not Joe
day.
O'Day, and that's what some have texted in.
But that's right, not Joe O'Day. But the problem with Joe O'Day was, first of all, he alienated his own base, and second of all, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people on the Democratic side or the unaffiliated side said, I don't trust this guy. I think he's just saying that because to get elected in Colorado, you have to have that position. So they
mean as a
might have felt that
Republican or as a
as anybody, you have to have a pro-life, a pro-choice
point,
position.
man. Bill, it sounds like what you're saying is Republicans need to adopt that position more often because that's the only way to get elected in the state of Colorado.
They do, and it has to be sincere. I think a lot of people on the left probably questioned O'Day, probably thought he was being cynical, saying, well, he's just saying that because he has to. But when he's there face-to-face with Mitch McConnell, he's going to back down, which Bennett or whoever it was would not have done, okay? That's what I think, but I don't know. But anyway, here's a little Sophie's, what do they call it? Sophie's Choice thought experiment. So think about this, George. Imagine you have a woman who's got 3 healthy children. She's pregnant with a 4th.
Yeah.
And this thought experiment, so it's not real.
Been there,
I don't
by
know
the
the
way.
scenario.
Go on.
Yeah, okay. She has to give up one of them. She either has to lose one of her kids, like die, or have a miscarriage. Which is she going to do?
Wait,
I believe.
I don't understand the choice again. Tell me, Bill. Forgive me.
Okay,
Tell
the
me
choice is at one of these four. Her 3 living kids, her 3 living healthy kids, or the baby she's carrying. One of them's got to go. Okay, that's the thought experiment. So
why do they have to go?
It's a thought experiment. We don't know why. We just know it does. That's the position she's in.
Okay.
What do you do? I believe, I'm not a woman. I've never been pregnant, but I can imagine being a father in such a case. There's no way I would say, okay, take little Johnny there and he's going. Never say it. You would, to me, you choose the pregnancy every time, which tells me that a pregnancy is a fetus is not on the same level as a baby, and therefore abortion is not infanticide. It's abortion.
Buddy, I appreciate the thought experiment. I just don't think that's a good analogy there. I don't think it's a good thought experiment because, of course, you're always going to choose the known, the baby with whom you've had that relationship and watched develop over something that still has not yet been born that you only know from the sense. But that doesn't deprive it of being a life worth protecting.
That makes it different.
It only makes it different in that you're saying there has to be this choice. Why can't they all live?
Well, that's not the basis of the thought experiment. They can.
I know. I believe you're right. It's not the basis.
Most women pregnant with their 4th kid have the 4th kid, and everybody's happy. But I'm just saying, why would anybody think for a second that they're going to, choose one of the living healthy kids? They wouldn't, because they're not the same. Because as you said, they have relationships with all kinds of people.
But you're presupposing there has to be a choice made, and there doesn't have to be a choice made.
No. I'm not saying the thought experiment is just within its own context. The purpose of any thought experiment is to give you a way to look at something that you may have not have looked at before. And you touched on it right away. It's about relationships. That's why infanticide is not the same as abortion. Because when you kill a living, breathing baby, I have little nieces and nephews that I've met 1 or 2 times. If I found that they died, I'd be much more devastated than if they had miscarried.
That can't be the basis for depreciating the value of one life over the other. You would make the same choice if it was a living baby for your neighbor. If you were told, hey, Bill, got to make a choice between your 4-year-old and the neighbors, you'd say neighbors all day, right? Because that ain't your kid. That has nothing to do with whether the life is worth protecting.
I'm just saying that abortion is not infanticide. Okay, I'm pro-life, but I'm even more pro-choice than I am pro-life. I hope any woman who's pregnant or girl and is considering an abortion will find a way to not do that. But if they don't answer to me or some unelected judge or some ambitious DA. They answer to their God. That's it.
Bill, I appreciate the call, man. Thank you, as always, for getting us going. 303-696-1971. Sandy, you're on 710. Sandy, what do you think?
I think that was an interesting conversation. No, I just wanted to point out to you that sometimes there are things called therapeutic abortions, spontaneous abortions, and abortions that are incomplete. And sometimes you have to have an abortion for life-saving reasons.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, I know that's true.
Yeah, you were pitching such a fit about the chemotherapy thing. I think it was poorly done But I think what they were pointing out is sometimes is life-saving.
You know what? If they had said that, if they had said, look, in the rare and it's a rare circumstance that the pregnancy would cost the life of the mother, but then I get it, right? I get it. But they don't do that. And I don't really think they believe that. I think they believe that abortion is the same as chemotherapy and radiation. And that is disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I that is ignorance beyond belief. But the reason I think we need to have clarification on abortion is because you read all the time about these women who are in trouble with their pregnancies, and they go to the hospitals, and a couple of stories, like they're told, well, you're not, you're bleeding, but I hear a heartbeat, so go home. And if you get sicker, come back. And then they practically get blood poisoning because the hospital is afraid to treat them. And that's been the case many times. I had a friend whose daughter found out that their baby was without lungs and without kidneys. And they even went to the priest because they were Catholic, and they talked to the priest, and they did an early delivery, because baby was getting
no chance
solidified and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Horrible.
But they went through that in order to do the early delivery so that her uterus would remain intact and that she would be able to have other children, which she did. She had beautiful daughters. But when women are made to go through a lot of this before they can get help, it can do harm to their uterus, and they may never have children.
Well, given that, and I appreciate that, that's just stuff I don't know about. So thank you for sharing that. Where does the Republican Party need to stay or go if they're going to be successful in future campaigns, in future elections?
I think they need to acknowledge that there are instances when it's necessary, and they're not going to put roadblocks in the way. I mean, when you have a representative who is so ignorant, he thinks in ectopic pregnancy, they can go in and put that in the uterus. You've got people making medical decisions that have no business doing that.
It feels a bit akin to that. Who was the clown in Missouri who lost his Senate race because he talked about legitimate rape? Do you remember that? Like Todd, what's it? There's just some folks that say things where you're like, you have just highlighted how you're broken on this issue. Is it your sense then that just simply, because I've heard a lot of Republicans say this, I am pro-life. I've said this, but in the instances of rape or incest or life of the mother, I totally get it. And I understand why there needs to be abortion. For that. Is that not enough anymore?
Well, and then you have to make the hospitals understand that when somebody comes in trouble, they can take care of them. They don't have to be afraid they're going to go to jail, like some of the states are threatening. And I remember in Catholic hospitals don't want to intercept anything. And somebody who was pregnant with twins and started bleeding and was going to lose one of the twins, they put her in an ambulance from Sierra Vista to Tucson because it was a Catholic hospital and they wouldn't help her.
Yeah.
Now that's just ridiculous.
Well, and it sounds like that's part of a broader conversation. And some of the texters have hit on this too, with the whole, hey, we need to focus on taking care of the kids after they're born and all that. But for me, I wonder, is this going to be for the foreseeable future the issue that puts us as extremists, as opposed for the general electorate? I don't think we're extremists. I'm saying for the general electorate, as opposed to allowing the Democrats to be the extremists with these garbage analogies between cancer and pregnancy. We don't get to have that conversation. We don't get to focus on those extremists and the fact that they would go after Polis on something that even Bill Clinton would have agreed upon, because we're painted as the extremists, that we're going to like DeSantis 6-week abortion ban. Really? I mean, that first off, I don't see that passing constitutional muster, but I don't know what the state of Florida's constitution is. 6 weeks. I don't know. I'm worried about this.
I just wish they'd leave it alone.
Hard to do that,
leave it alone and let people make their own decisions.
Except that, Sandy, if you believe that is an innocent life that lacks the ability to defend itself, if you believe that fundamentally, then doesn't the state have to play some role in protecting it when it can't protect itself? Do you know what I mean? Like to just
yeah, I
simply,
know what you mean,
yeah.
but you know, George, when the states or the federal government step into people's lives, they usually make mistakes,
No
like
doubt.
taking all the
No
Indian
doubt.
children away from their parents and sending them to those god awful schools.
Yep.
They thought they were doing what was right, right? They didn't.
They did. Sandy, Sandy,
Get nulls out of your life.
Thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. Listen, we went a little bit long, but I thought Sandy was making some great points. We're going to cut away for a break. If we have enough time left, I'll take Frank right then. Otherwise, at the top of the hour, this is just a conversation that isn't going to go away. We keep getting texts on this. Does the Republican Party need to follow the advice of Sean Hannity and shift on its position regarding abortion in light of what's taken place in Ohio and other states? And I will tell you, certainly in the 9 o'clock hour, what I think is coming for us on the national stage is George Brauchler on the George Show 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Listen, I got Frank and some others on the phone here and a bunch of texts. I promise I'll get to them. I just don't have enough time to do a call justice, but I do have enough time to tell you about my teeth. I was picking at one earlier because of the orange thing. Here's the deal. Twin Aspen Dental Center, they're my dentist, Drs. Richter and Snyder, new mom, Dr. Snyder. Can't wait to see pictures of the little one. They do yeoman's work down there at about Stroh and Parker Road. Very easy to get to. They're one of those community type dentist offices, not part of a big box kind of chain kind of a thing. They're just their own entity. But I'm telling you, their commitment to your health through making your mouth and your smile as awesome as they can be is undeniable. And they're great at creating an environment that's welcoming, just low stress. And that's when someone's being as invasive as they can be, short of you having to do those special treatments that men like Billy and I have to go through every couple of years. They make it so easy, and they have opportunities for you to pay for things if the insurance won't. They've got these low-cost plans that cover all the x-rays and the regular treatments and everything else. They do all the heavy lifting with the dental implants and all that stuff. All you have to do is check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com, or call them at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. That's twinaspendentalcenter.com. Listen, that's all the time we have for this 8 o'clock hour. When we come back in the 9, I promise to get to the callers. I promise to get to the texts. Lots of them here. Anxious to hear your thoughts on, do Republicans stand a better chance of winning by staying the course on pro-life, or do we have to take a page out of Sean Hannity's book? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, final hour of the Monday show. It'll be Chuck Kirk after this. Dennis Prager, who's coming to town, much like the Easter Bunny, only he's doing it on August the 30th for the 3rd annual Dennis Prager Cigar Night. I'll be there. Stefan, Deb, we'll all be there. I think the weekend folks are all going to be there as well. You should join us with your ticket that you can get at 710knus.com. Just click on the banner. You get a premium cigar, carving station access, first drink for free. I keep saying there's going to be a hug. Originally, I had said Dennis will hug you, but I was counseled against that. So there will be a hug. I'm just not sure from whom. I presume consent will be there on both sides. Just don't know the answer. But if you want to see how that plays out, you got to participate. You got to show up. Great opportunity to see the Dennis Prager in person doing one of the things that he just loves doing, which is smoking up the cigars. Check us out on 710knus.com. Now, the issue we've been covering here is one that sustained us now for a couple hours because of the calls at 303-696-1971 and the texts, which I'll get to more of this. But at the end of the day, there have been so many ballot measures and issues that have sprung up across the country since the Dobbs decision overturning Roe versus Wade, and the outcome of those seem to suggest that there is a definite opinion from the majority of the voting electorate out there in many states, including red states like Ohio, and certainly states like Colorado, blue states like Colorado, that suggests that the Republicans' position is not only the minority position on pro-life, but it's a position that could end up costing us elections down the road. Now, I fully predict, not partially predict, fully predict, that the Democrats are going to have a referred measure from the legislature or maybe a ballot initiative sponsored by voters, but I presume it'll be a referred measure this coming election cycle for November of 2024 that's going to try to enshrine in the Constitution some kind of abortion access because they know it's a winner. Now, the Ohio outcome of that election, which would have raised the bar for amending the Constitution, making it likely impossible for them to do the same thing in Ohio, that thing got crushed. It got beaten like a baby harp seal, 57-42. That's a big deal. It's such a big deal that it affected Sean Hannity, a pro-life conservative.
I think the American people, and I consider myself pro-life. I believe in the sanctity of life, but I think politically that Republicans have got to say, as Bill Clinton once said, I never thought I'd quote him, rare, legal, and I'd add the word very early in a pregnancy. That seems to be politically where the country is. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. That vote in Ohio was pretty sobering.
Yeah, the problem for him is that, one, that may be pragmatically true, and that's my question to you. But even on the Democrat side of things, this is how far that party has moved away, is that you have a Democrat governor, a progressive Democrat governor trying to portray himself as a libertarian, and a moderate, Jared Polis, who went on CNN and said this.
Some in your party might argue that it's naive to call for more respectful debate at a time when many Republicans are just, for example, trying to restrict abortion access or roll back LGBTQ rights. You're the first openly gay man elected governor. How would you disagree better with someone who says your marriage is not legitimate?
Look, you start with the common ground on something like abortion choice. Democrats don't believe that abortion is good. We believe it's bad. It should be minimized. How do you prevent unwanted pregnancy?
Holy smokes. Did you hear him call it common ground on pro-choice and speaking for the Dems? And he's the head of the Dem party out here in Colorado. Well, he got repudiated. He got thumped by three super liberals out there under the Gold Dome, Lisa Cutter, Julie Gonzalez, and Meg Froelich, who took him to task for that comment, saying that they were deeply troubled by it, and then likening pregnancy to cancer by saying that his terminology and the word choice about abortion being bad isn't helpful. Instead, chemotherapy and radiation are unpleasant medical procedures. We wish we didn't need them, but they are necessary. Now, listen, I fully accept that there are cases where abortion makes medical sense because of the life of the mother, or maybe like Sandy had pointed out, baby's going to be born without a brain stem or lungs or what. I get all that stuff. But are you telling me that that's not what they're talking about here? These folks actually believe that a pregnancy is like cancer and that radiation and chemotherapy to end cancer, that's just like getting rid of the unwanted cells in your uterus that happen to make up a life. Now, we don't get to focus on that extremist rhetoric. One, the mainstream media will never ask them to justify that comment. But two, because we're the ones that seem to have, at least in many parts of the country, the extremist position on pro-life. A 6-week abortion ban. Now, I get it, I'm a pro-life guy. That is not going to speak to the majority of voters out there. And this is what's coming for Republican candidates for president. And it's what's coming for all candidates here in the state of Colorado. What do we do about it? 303-696-1971. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think, Frank?
You know, George, I think you've cast it pretty well. The position that we've been put in, and we've been labeled that. I'm not sure that Republicans or conservatives all feel that way. I think that they would like a more moderate approach and still try to justify, sanctify, and endorse the rights of the fetus in the womb. However, I think unfortunately, if we're going to win elections, it's going to come down to basic human nature. And I go back to that old analogy of the difference is between, like the difference between ham and eggs. Chicken is committed, but the pig is involved. And, you know, he's having to sacrifice. And that's the way women think about it. And I think when Republicans take such an absolutist opinion, and I am very pro-life myself, however, I think you have to give them some definitions, that there can be some conditions, whether it's very strict or not. And this is going to be obviously the debate. And I hate to agree with Joe Biden, but his strategists have told him that, and he blurts these things out like it's going to be the difference in the election. And I think depending on the state, it could be as much as 10, 15, 20% difference, because
think about that. That's the end of the race, man. How many people win? I mean, that's a game changer.
It is. And if the condition of the State of the Union comes down to that there are psychologists and people who have analyzed these things to win elections, and they have cast people of their own party to become super extremists, like these 3 Colorado women you referenced. They're hysterical about this stuff. The hysterical term is there for a reason. But, you know, there's no real talking or conversing or coming to a logical conclusion with this. So the Republican Party is going to have to decide what position they take. I think that a trapped or cornered animal, which I'm unfortunately saying is likened to a woman that has a pregnancy that she feels you can't get out of, there has to be some conditional argument that can be made. And again, you're right. You're trying to take a principled Catholic stand, Christian stand, and I understand that. It's just going to come down to what you allow for women who are pregnant to have conditions to have these things. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the definition is. I don't know what the timing is. I certainly think, like you say, there's got to be pre-conception birth control and access, but we know that's not always available in all states and all socioeconomic conditions. It's a huge mess. And unfortunately, the state of our union, I'm afraid, rests on that, because you got the radicals on the left that want to push the Marxist, socialist agenda to the detriment of this country, I feel. And I hate for it to come down to one issue like that could swing an election. But that's the thing that women do feel. It's very personal to them, and they don't like old white men or men of any race dictating to them and placing them in a box that they can't escape from.
Frank, bottom line, are you saying then the Republicans need to moderate their position on this to remain a viable alternative and give us a chance to resist the rest of whatever that described socialist communist agenda is? Or, I mean, do we cling to our principles, and they're legit principles, cling to these principles at the expense of being in a position of power? Is it better to have lost for the right reasons?
I think the whole world is watching us because we've got this super great society of money and principles and laws, and the rest of the world is second and third world, and they have to deal with this all the time. But we, as conservatives, if we don't keep a representative voice in some way by handling these debates, and it's going to come down to some political solution, and you take the two extremes, and you've got to have people who are common sense, not radicals on either side, to hammer out some type of solution in the middle, and that becomes the position of the party to go forth and fight an election with, and then a legitimate election. And that's going to be the best possible solution for this particular mess.
Well, Frank, listen, man, as always, appreciate the phone call on this one. I like the exchange with the callers on this because I don't know if there is a 100% correct answer. I keep going back to this adage that, is it better to be right or to be in power? And are we losing our soul to acknowledge what Sean Hannity said? Or is it better to lose for the right reasons? Or is it better to do what good you can by recognizing where the electorate is on this? 303-696-1971. You're going to hear people say, by the way, no, if we just articulated our position better, and if people just, I don't think it's about that, folks. I don't think there's anybody out there who's like, abortion, I'm not really sure. I could go either way. I don't know anybody like that. I know people who know exactly what they think because this is one of those issues that speaks to you at a core. It's not like flat tax. I certainly see the benefits, but I also understand why it's not like that. Do you know anybody in your life who's like, abortion? Hadn't given it a lot of thought yet, but at some point, I don't know anybody like that. So if this is where the electorate is, what do Republicans do in Colorado and nationally? Listen, let me talk to you a little bit about what to do, by the way, if you're feeling, and I'll get to Stephen. And by the way, Frank's line is open at 303-696-1971. And so many texts, I want to get to those as well. Listen, if you've got pains in your joints, and I told you in the 6 o'clock, did the 10-mile run this Sunday, a 12-mile one on tap for next Sunday. I don't know how I'm going to keep going because that's not even 50% of a marathon. But every time I finish, I ask myself, is today the day I pick up the phone and call our friends at QC Kinetix? Because I've got that lingering pain in my hip or my lower back or my knee or my shoulders. These are the folks that say, listen, you can go ahead and go to your regular doctor. Let them talk to you about taking a whole bunch of pills. Nobody likes that. Let them talk to you about going to an orthopedic surgeon who will do a wonderful job carving you up and then fixing you and then telling you there's rehab and downtime and don't shower with that on and they're going to do all those things. QC Kinetix is going to say, before you pull the trigger on that, would you please give us a call? Because we want to answer all your questions about how regenerative medicine, which uses you to cure you, can be the difference maker you need without that cutting you open, without that downtime, without the 8 billion pills and all that other stuff. You can call their local professionals at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. You can check them out at QC Kinetix, begins with a K, ends with an X.com. And you'll get the answers you want. You'll get to make an informed decision. And then you're going to call me up and say, you know what, man, that was awesome. So thankful I listened and made that call. 303-900-8986, QC Kinetix. Let's get right back to the phone line. Stephen, you're on 710 KNUS. Stephen, what do you think?
Well, I think in the last election here in Colorado, we had that 5-month, you can't have an abortion after the 5th month.
That was 2020.
That was in 2020?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at any rate, the main reason I called was that was poorly presented by the Republicans, because whenever I heard the Democratic ads and things and they're going and heard people talking, they would say, oh no, Colorado wants to ban abortion. And that's kind of how it was stated. And the Republicans really didn't come back and try to make it real clear that, you know, you're not banning abortion. You're trying to do it and give a reasonable kind of like chopping the baby into, you know.
I think that the problem here is that all the money, and maybe this also is a reflection of where the electorate is, all the money flowed into the defeat the due date too late initiative. They got outspent by a ton, and I'll try to find the numbers if I can before the end of the show. But it's true. The due date too late folks were trying to ban abortion after 22 weeks. So to the extent that they were able to put those messages out there and they're largely unchecked by the mainstream media, you're right. They won the messaging war, but I'm not sure it would have made a difference. It's hard to know. I mean, 57 was almost 58 to 41 or something like that. Crazy numbers that due date too late lost by. I just don't think it's a matter of just messaging. I think for Colorado, man, the folks that turned out to the vote, they are just not with us on that issue. And so what would you do, Stephen? What advice would you give the Republican Party about how to message or what position to take on pro-life after this?
Well, I think the combined forces of the loony left and the righteous right will be the final ruination of America. But I do have a kind of a off-the-wall solution.
Yeah.
What you do is you allow, and now if you do this, it's going to have our kids will do better in school. There'll be fewer juvenile delinquents. And what you do is you legalize abortion until the last day before the kid turns 18. And so with that hanging over their head,
oh my
they're going to do
Lord,
well
man.
in school.
I think you're being
behave.
tongue in cheek there, because that's actually the law already in Colorado or something like that. You know what I mean? It's already so liberal.
Well, it's just I'm going to be 72 soon, and I've seen the Republicans get their hind ends handed to them over this issue time and time again. And sometimes politics makes odd bedfellows, and I think the Republicans will drop the ball again, and this issue will carry the day for a lot of elections around the country.
I think that's whether the Republicans drop the ball or not, Stephen. I think that the real concern here is that we have identified an issue that motivates a core group of voters, many of them women, who, independent of any other ideological position that they would take, whether it's fiscally or otherwise or socially, that this issue is so intensely personal to them, even if they would never have an abortion, that it motivates them to vote a certain way just to make sure that they don't have to confront a law that would say you can't do this with your body, their words, or you lose this integrity and autonomy in your person. That matters, man. What do we do with that? And I know some are going to say, we just need to clearly articulate the pro-life position. And as long as they know where, I don't think that's true anymore. I think that I don't think that's true anymore.
Whether abortion is legal or illegal, it's still going to occur. Maybe the Republicans could regain a lot of power in this country by just saying, yeah, what the Democrats say, whatever. Just now, we believe in absolutely everything the Democrats say about abortion. We're going to back it their way. And then we get our candidates in and we can do a lot of good in other areas. And people who want to abort are going to abort, whether it's against the law or not. It's just stupid to keep losing.
Well, that's just it.
What did Al Davis say? Just win, baby.
Just win. And I'm not sure if we're there or not, but Stephen, I appreciate the articulation of it. I think you're getting there. This is what Sean Hannity is saying, right? Listen, we've got a ton of texts. Stephen's line is open, 303-696-1971. If you are an unaffiliated or Republican woman, tell me what you see with this issue. George, you and Hannity are just wrong in even having this conversation. We are pro-life all the time. That's what wins me over. Or here's what needs to take place for me to vote a certain way. I'd love to hear that. 303-696-1971. I promise I want to read the texts right now, but I can't because there are just so many of them, and I can't. I promise over the break I will. Let me just, before I cut away, tell you about our buddy Mitch Floria from the Art of Granite. Mitch is back from his big trip outside the country to go see family, and he is back to rock it for you with upgrading your kitchen or your bathroom interior with that biggest eye-catching piece in there. That's the countertop. This dude's been doing it for years. He has that old school kind of American handshake, look you in the eye. Customer service is my touchstone approach to small business. If you don't believe me, go out to his shop there his showroom at about 6th Avenue and Colfax-ish. And when you go to meet him, just be prepared to throw down the credit card, because you're going to be convinced. He will sell you on the quality of the stuff that he does. He's a craftsman, and the customer service, and you're going to love that you did this. So you reach out to Mitch Floria. You can find him at theartofgranite.com, theartofgranite.com. And when you tell him I'm a George listener, I am a 710 listener, he'll say, I love you even more than I did before you walked in here. I'm going to give you the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're only doing one of the rooms, he'll throw in the kitchen sink for free. That's just how he does it. Give him a call at 303-386-5919. Don't be surprised if he answers that number, because it's his phone. 303-386-5919. 303-386-5919. 5919. That's the Art of Granite. You tell him that George sent you. Stick around. I'll get to the phone calls, the texts. George Brauchler, 710 KUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, our number 303-696-1971. I promise you the text. I'm going to try to focus on those this segment. Here's one. Good morning, fellas. Oh, here's another one. Sorry. This is the one I'd referenced before. Somebody texts in and says, do you believe abortion should not be legal under any circumstances? What a horribly phrased question. What if you say no? What's the answer? What does that mean? Do you believe abortion should not be legal under any circumstances? No. Yes. I mean, horrible question. But I said, hey, who said that? No one. My question's to you. I'm asking what your position is. It's a simple question. I said, call in. Because you refuse to answer, I can only conclude that you're not comfortable with your position. Not good. I'm not listening. I said, dude, have the guts to call in. Don't listen and complain. Not complaining. I'm on a walk with my dog. I said, oh, well, still refuse to answer in writing. I said, call in and nothing. I don't get the whole, I'm afraid to call in and have the conversation with you. I'd much rather just throw barbs through the text. It's very close to the social media thing where I'll tweet at you from my anonymous X account, but I won't ever take you on head on because I don't really believe in what I'm saying. Okay. Here's another one. So when you say, quote, abortions until kindergarten is a similar percentage to my quote, some abortions are medical necessities and some are choices. Yeah, I get it. This person said some abortions are medical necessities and some are choices. I said, yeah, like 99-1. They said, yes, it's 1%, the same amount of abortions that happen after 21 weeks. 99% happen before 21 weeks, most being before 15 weeks. I honestly don't know the stats on that, but my guess is almost exclusively, those abortions, regardless of when they happen, are matters of discretion and not a matter of the life of the mother or the health of the fetus. There's probably some numbers out there, but my guess is it's the vast majority. So just simply saying, hey, some are medical necessities and some are choices, it just waters it down too much. Here's another. As a female voter that used to be a Republican, I'm more than sick of hearing about it. Take abortion totally out of government. Okay, yeah. And then the response, just so you know, I listen to you in the morning while I'm working. Can't call, easy to text. Love your show. That's very nice. Thank you. Another text. Taxes go for birth control if you can't stay out of bed. If a woman wants control of her body, use birth control. I understand what you're saying. I absolutely understand what you're saying, but I think what you're going to hear is that does not resonate with a ton of women who consider themselves pro-choice, because they'll say, well, listen, what if the birth control fails? And that happens. I don't think it's the vast majority of anything. I think it's the minority, but that happens. Or so what? What if I don't use birth control and I end up going down this road? And now what are you going to tell me? Because I got pregnant, because I made these choices with my body. Now I'm stuck. I have to deliver the baby. That's what they're going to say. That's not what I'm saying. That's what they're going to say. And if you have a pro-life position that's like at 6 weeks, you're saying, yeah, man, if you didn't find out by 6 weeks, tough. You are in it forever now. That is a hard pill, no pun intended, to swallow for women. I mean, I don't want my daughter to end up in that position either. I mean, it's a tough one. I don't think we're going to get a ton of election victories with this thing out there making us look like the extremists. Instead, if we had a position that allowed us, or at least the mainstream media, to allow us to highlight these three clowns under the legislature, the Gold Dome here, who have likened a pregnancy to cancer and abortion to chemotherapy or radiation, calling it necessary and needed garbage. Some of them are, but that's the vast minority. The vast majority are matters of discretion. Embrace it. If you embrace that and make it a choice, because you know what? Radiation and chemotherapy is only a choice like, well, you could get it or you could die. That's not pregnancy. The vast majority of these are, you could have an abortion or you could have the baby. Not even have to raise the baby. You could put the baby up for adoption. But likening pregnancy to cancer is just disgusting. So that extreme position, I'd love to highlight that extreme position where we can't do it because we're painted as the extremists. 303-696-1971. Linda from Greeley, you're on 710. What do you think, Linda?
I just have an idea.
Yeah.
Every woman that goes in to have an abortion, there should be a national law that they have to see the baby on an ultrasound before they can get the abortion.
And why would you do that?
Because it's a known fact that a lot of women that do see the baby, I heard a percentage of 85%, they don't get the abortion after seeing the baby.
Why should it be a federal law?
Because I think abortion is a problem. I think this country is going to be punished if we keep it up.
Did you?
I think
agree
we're taking human life.
Cindy? I'm sorry, Linda. Did you agree with Dobbs that overturned Roe versus Wade and said, "Hey, this isn't an issue for the United States Constitution. This is an issue for states"? Did you agree with that or disagree with that?
Any way we can eliminate abortion is good for me.
Regardless of the path
national
you
or
take
by
to
the
get there?
state.
Really?
Pardon me?
Regardless of the path you take to get there, because I'll say this, we have for the longest time as a party advocated for overturning Roe versus Wade, saying this isn't the federal government's business. This isn't the United States Constitution's business. This is a matter of states' business. And now we have it. The dog caught the car. And now what I hear, and you're not alone in this, Linda, a lot of people saying, doesn't matter. Now that we've got that, we should have a federal law. I'm willing to give up on that principle of states' rights. Let's go back to the feds and mandate it for everyone. Are you in that camp?
You're saying, am I in the camp where the states ought to decide?
No, where you're in the camp with, I am totally supportive of the federal government hijacking the rights of the state to make this determination.
Yeah, I think I am.
And tell me why that is.
Because I think abortion is awful. I'm kind of nervous.
I get it, man. Calling in.
I didn't know you were going to talk to me this long.
Oh, you're doing a great job, Linda. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I just think I want to be on the side of God, and I think this country is going to be punished if we continue killing the unborn.
And listen, your position is one that so many other people take, and that is the principle or the value of human life is so important to me. It's almost Machiavellian. The ends justify the means. If we can outlaw abortion, I don't care if it's through the states. I don't care if it's through the feds. It just needs to end. I get that. But for us, trying to argue as a matter of principle that Roe versus Wade needs to be overturned because it's a states' rights issue, now I feel like we're sort of stuck with a different principle, and that is, whoa. Should it just be the federal government? Because once we invite them into this decision, how do we ever push back on any other?
True.
But it's just, Linda, great phone call. You did super well. No need to be nervous. Please call back again. I love the call. Linda from Greeley, 303-696-1971. Linda's line is open. Here's another texter. I 100% do not agree with abortion. For me, I do believe that abortion is taking a life. I believe that if there is a heartbeat, there is a life. I do believe there are situations where it is absolutely warranted for an individual to have an abortion. But above all, I believe there is no place for the government in making that decision for adults. And it is the one topic that isolates me from the party. Well, damn, I think that kind of spells that this is our problem. This is our problem with a great number of women, educated women. If I were taking up the other side as a dude and I get the limitations that creates for my perspective, it would be who defends the unborn? And frankly, listen, I've said this before. There is no other thing in the world that we have, no other thing, at least in the Constitution or in America, maybe not the world, in America, where we say your life is worth protecting as long as somebody else says it's got value, right? So if you're a mom or you're a mom to be and you're pregnant, we pass laws that crush people that unlawfully terminate your pregnancy through assault or murder or whatever it is. We try to punish the hell out of them for doing that because you wanted the baby. But if you don't want the baby, if you don't want the fetus, then you can go and do the exact same thing, not just as a matter of, with impunity, but as a matter of right. Doesn't that seem weird? Like, where else do we say your life will not be protected by the law because someone else doesn't value it? I don't know of anything like that. 303-696-1971. Here's another text. George, I rather lose an election than to continue to kill babies and calling it a choice and receive God's judgment on this nation. Think about it. The blood of Abel in Genesis cries out to God at the killing that Cain did. Then think about the 63 million babies that have been killed and their cries out to God. What do you think he is hearing? Okay, listen, as a matter of faith, I think that God is opposed to abortion. You're right. But do we do better good for more lives? Do we save more lives to take a different approach on this issue, the one that Hannity's talked about? Do we do that? And does it matter? Is it better to be 100% opposed to abortion and know that all we've done is to create an environment where more of them will occur more freely? Or does it make sense to be more pragmatic and save some lives? I mean, if you could outlaw 50% of the abortions. What if you could just get rid of all the discretionary late-term abortions? Would you take that in exchange for a different position on abortion? Or would you say, no, I'm willing to endure the late-term, last-second, up through kindergarten abortions that Colorado has embraced because I'm on the principle of it's 100% pro-life. There are no exceptions. Is that where we're at? Because that's just going to keep us in the minority. And I know there are folks out there who sincerely believe that if we can just articulate our positions well enough, we will convince the electorate to go our way. I don't see it. I haven't seen it in an election yet. Certainly not in Colorado. Maybe there's something nationally you can point to. But wherever this seems to be on the ballot post-Dobbs, we're getting thumped. We're getting thumped. And the legislators that are putting this thing into law in other states, you watch what happens on their reelects.
Now, George,
Yes,
let
sir.
me, as I want to do. Oh, hang on a second.
Oh, here we go. Another call. Thank you for calling in. I'll read another text. A more interesting local issue. No, that's not it. How about flooding the ads with, did you know that the state allows abortion up to? I think that was the goal of due date too late, which I was a supporter of due date too late. And it didn't make any difference. Billy?
Yeah. Let me, as I want to do, let me make this conversation a bit more difficult. When we're leaning on religion, remember, God's okay with killing kids. He's just fine with that. I can give you a laundry list of things that happen inside of the Bible. The one we're most familiar with is the curses that he puts on Pharaoh when he's trying to get Moses and let the Jews go out of Egypt. Yeah. He kills all the firstborn Egyptians.
Yeah.
So the idea.
Remember, they had it coming.
I know. But
they're also, that's Old Testament.
Yeah. But this is just how my crazy brain in here is wired, that I like to make these conversations more difficult.
But remember, they're not being aborted.
I know, but I'm just saying death of children is not necessarily something that, based on the Bible, you can say that he's universally against. The other question is when you're talking about life and you're talking about the unborn fetus and who's speaking for the unborn and the ones that aren't alive, is when and how do you define when life begins? Because that is defined differently, even in different religions. And should you allow someone's religious beliefs to define when life begins for everybody else? Because you may not want somebody else's religion that is different than yours defining when life begins because you may not agree with it. And so think about that one. I'm going to go talk to the people on the phone.
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
again,
Billy.
just want to make this more complicated.
There's Billy to rain on the religion parade right there, as always. He just knows stuff. He's armed with religious education, and it just makes him even more dangerous. 303-696-1971 is the number of callers coming in. Listen, let's cut away for a break. I want to get to more of these texts. There's a lot more than I've read to you. Those are just the ones that I could get to at the moment. While we're on the topic, by the way, of pro-life, let me tell you about Dan Caplis. And this guy is as committed as anyone to pro-life as a matter of faith and principle. But I have to say, I've never seen a guy who has let his religious faith, who has used it only for positive, especially when representing victims of crime, as much as Dan Caplis does. He just doesn't judge anyone. He's got that sort of Jesus Christ approach to, I accept you where you are. I will meet you where you are. And whether it's a matter of someone who thinks differently than he is on politics or someone who is a different faith, he's never cared. In my opinion, Dan has never cared. If you have a righteous case where someone has victimized you, you want a champion like Dan, who is completely principled, hard-charging, experienced, and expert, who does not judge you based on anything other than the merits of your case. That's it. He and Baber Wahid have been doing this now for a long time. Baber is on the back half of, I think, his second decade of doing this. Dan's been doing this on the back half of his second century. No, I'm kidding. He would hate that if he heard that, but he looks younger than I am, so deal with it. Nonetheless, Dan and Baber have been doing this work forever. If you're looking for a champion that judges you based on the righteousness of your case, and that's it, someone who will fight for you as long and as hard and as skilled as you want them to, then you got to call Dan Caplis at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, dancaplisLaw.com. That's dancaplisLaw.com. Listen, I'm going to cut away for a break. We're going to get Jerry from Englewood and as many of these texts as I can when we come back. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy?
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Text, the no exception pro-life people are being arrogant and self-righteous as they lose elections, and the communists will kill more of us and more babies. Another one, I tell people the law they voted for protects people from terming a full-term pregnancy. They're horrified at what they supported. Getting right back to the phone lines. Jerry from Englewood, you're on 710. Jerry, what do you think?
Well, what I have to say, first of all, is that I'm not advocating that the Republicans use the word murder anywhere in their analysis of the issues in public. But it seems to me that there is a concept in the law, and you know this far better than I do, called justification. And it's things like lesser of two evils and that sort of thing, which are defenses to a charge of first-degree murder. Is that still prevalent?
There is such a thing as choice of evils that you have, but it is largely inapplicable to murder. Choice of evils can exist on a whole bunch of different things, but not to murder. So, for instance, if someone said, hey, unless you murder Billy, I'm going to shoot your son. That is not a defense to murdering Billy. That's just not, there's nothing like that. It might minimize the sentence in some way. If you weren't convicted of first-degree murder, maybe it drops it, but it is not a defense to murder.
That's interesting. Would it be a defense in a situation where a woman was pregnant with a child that was going to have something even worse than Downs or something of that sort?
I can't imagine that giving birth to a deformed or ill baby would justify murdering that baby after birth. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, abortion's different, but if they were born and then you were like, oh my God, this baby's totally deformed, let's kill this baby, I still think it would be murder. I just think that's a little bit different.
Okay.
Well, ma'am, I can't thank you enough for listening, Jerry. We'd love to take your calls in the future. 303-6. I don't know why I'm giving out the number. I have like seconds left. Dick, I would have loved to have gotten you on, man, but we're just going to have to try this again tomorrow because you guys took up the show. I can't even get to all the texts. I mean, I try to read another one here. When it comes to abortion, I think the underlying issue is that we've become a society that looks down on parenthood, and we want abortion to be legal so we can avoid being a parent. Maybe a better message for Republicans would be to point out all the incredible experiences one receives from parenthood and allow Democrats to kill their babies. Another one, I've been saying what Hannity's been saying since Obama ran for his second term. I told Chuck and Julie there's no way a Republican was going to beat Obama simply based on women's rights. They laughed at me and said people were more worried about their pocketbooks. That's kind of what Joan was saying too. I don't know. Hey, listen, there's going to be more of this to talk about in the future. It's not gone. I'm just going to make that prediction. It's coming for us on the ballot next year. Hey, stick around. We'll be back tomorrow, 6 to 10 a.m. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.